Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ask a Scientist Gaming, where we combine mediocre gameplay with expert science. I'm Ken Hansen, Associate Professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at Florida State University. I do chemical reactions with light. I do light to drive solar reactions or solar cells. But more importantly, joining me today is Dr. Josh Melko. Josh, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Josh Melko. I'm an associate professor of chemistry at the University of North Florida. My research program is in atmospheric chemistry. I study with something called mass spectrometry, the reaction rates of various gas phase chemical reactions, figuring out how fast they happen, and then transition some of those results to people that model the atmosphere's chemistry, other planetary atmospheres, and spent the last year on Capitol Hill doing some science policy advising.
That was a very heavy sentence you just said. Just summarized with several words what is a very big thing. All right, equally important, what game are we starting with?
Good question. I think we should start with Blitz.
All right, we are starting with Blitz, ladies and gentlemen. One of the early extreme games. It was like NBA Jam and then this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, NBA Jam was great. And the arcade, man, that was just my go-to for sure.
Oh, we can play that tonight if you want to.
Well, now I feel like there's pressure. I mean, it's been an easy 20 years since I played this, probably.
20 years. It'll come back. Come back real quick.
I don't know.
If nothing else, we can put in those like cheat codes where you have like a big head or you're invincible or you're 80 feet tall. Or I don't remember what they were.
I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars as my team because I live in Jacksonville now. They're not my favorite NFL team, but I got to represent.
Fullerene 60C is raiding with a party of two. Is that one of your people?
I recognize the name. Fullerene, hello.
Fullerene,
thank you so
welcome
much
to the streams. Yeah, thank you for bringing people to the party.
What were you streaming about, Fullerene? Okay, yes, right, this is what I do. I go that way.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you settle in before bombarding you with anything, because there's much to dive into. But yeah, Fullerene, it's good to see you again. Thank you for the raid. Thank you for stopping by. If anyone has questions, feel free to throw them in chat. I promise we'll get to them. We'll let Josh settle into a game he has not played in 20 years. Has it really been? It's probably been more than 20 years.
Yeah, probably more than 20 years.
So this came out in, what is it, 96 or 97? Games.
Is that right? Oh my gosh.
Yep. So NFL Blitz was 97. Mario Kart was 96. So yeah, it's been
20 plus years probably. Wow. Nice. Oh man, yeah. So maybe I should have chosen the team that was my team in 1997. Then I'd actually recognize the players.
Instead of your team now.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Now that I think about it.
Man, this back when I played games like this was the only time I really knew players well.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me?
Wow. Get your Benucci rage.
Dang it. That was a nice play too. And then,
No, that was beautiful. It's an accidental. Does this game have rubber banding? I don't remember. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Where they like adjust the difficulty depending on how well you're doing.
I was gonna say I doubt it, but I don't know. Actually, in 1997, maybe the Jaguars were actually good because they were just a new team and around that time. And one of their first years, they went to the playoffs with Mark Brunell. And
I do remember that. It was it was like a record for how fast the team. Yeah. Data Basics, Professor Melko!
Data
Exclamation
Basics.
point.
Hello.
Welcome to the stream, Data Basics. All right, you've settled in enough.
Pro now.
If anyone has any questions, but let's open the can of worms with life story. What brought you here? And particularly, we'll talk about your last year of your life.
What brought me to chemistry, to
the
academia?
entire journey.
Oh,
because 5-year-old Josh Melko wasn't like, I'm going to go on Capitol Hill and advise a senator.
Right.
It's a convoluted path that brought you there.
True. I grew up in a state park in Florida, Jonathan Dickinson State Park. So my dad was a park ranger, and my mom eventually would become a teacher, but did a lot of childcare, after school care, things like that. So I was sort of born and always naturally sort of existing at the intersection, I guess, of environment and teaching. And so maybe ending up as a science professor was not super surprising, but always like had a love of science and nature. And I think like many kids, progressing through middle school and high school, I was like, I like science. Doctors make a lot of money. I'll become a doctor. And I did eventually become a doctor, just not the kind that makes a lot of money.
In your defense, we were doctors, or our field was doctors when they were still cutting up people in barber shops. So
Right.
we are the real doctors. Someone fight me. Anyway.
I think somewhere in like, high school, I was in like this medical program, and I was like, better now that I realize I do not want to be a doctor. When I was doing like nursing rotation kind of things at the high school level, I was like, I know now this is not for me. And better than getting to like college, like I think so many kids do. And
Well, I try to tell students that because it's like they all want to be, Dr. House, like solving really elegant medicals, but really it's customer service for sick people.
yeah,
Like
it's a business.
Yeah, and in the U.S. a very, I won't say dirty business, but it's financially driven to an
Yes.
extreme.
Yes. And a lot of that shaped by, sort of incestuous. We make money, then we use that money to shape policy to keep us making money, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, that was my journey up through going to college and realizing I liked physics and chemistry a whole lot, and I just want to keep learning. So grad school wasn't going to close any doors. And then, just got the PhD, kept going, knew I always loved college, and, ending up in academia was kind of the right fit, and at a university that I'm getting destroyed. At a university that has a good mix of teaching and research, I think I settled into the right place.
Yeah, and you started 2014, if I remember correctly.
2014.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been almost a decade. Can you
Yes.
believe that? Because I started 2013 and I started doing that math, and it's
Wow.
like, holy crap.
Yeah. Time flies when you're working hard.
So it's for me. It's 2 years before my Yahoo Mail account is older than the freshman.
Oh,
Yep.
what a depressing way to think.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do? It's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, that's true.
But you did that for 7 or so years, and you said, I'm going to go do some science policy.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't always obvious. I knew zero about politics and science policy, especially before that. But, I always did my civic duty. I always voted, things like that. But it was one of those things, and this, like after you get tenure, you start maybe thinking a little bit, what do I want like the next stage of my career to be? And what do I want to do with it? And I love what I do. I love teaching and the research, but there was this moment when I was just sitting there thinking about, this was the previous administration of Trump, and this was COVID just starting, and my wife was pregnant with our first child. And I was thinking, well, I just feel like I need to do something that's a little bit more applicable in the science policy landscape, because it was pretty obvious, public trust in science in general had been eroding for a while, but I think it was very apparent with COVID that sort of brought it all to the forefront. And it just really became apparent to me that, not all scientists, but a lot more scientists have to take an active role in advocating for science and how it shapes policy. Because otherwise, we can sit back and do our experiments and hope that it's somebody's job to use the best science, and we are the institution providing this information and other people use it. But I don't think that's the right way to play the game anymore. Information and misinformation is so prevalent. We really need strong scientific voices. So part of it was me realizing, I could go to Capitol Hill if I get this fellowship for 1 year knowing nothing, and it'll just be a completely immersive 1 year boot camp in professional development. And that's really what it turned out to be.
I mean, but in your defense, I mean, for those of you that don't know, Josh was a Twitch streamer. I mean, you did that for, it was a long time, right? It was 5 or 6 years. You were
I think
like
5 years.
And you regularly talk about current events and science things. Like you were on top of it to some degree.
I think you're right. I was never, and really Twitch brought that out of me. I would say I knew zero about politics before I started streaming on Twitch. And Twitch does have a lot of political streamers. Some of them I really enjoy watching, and we're active in their communities. And that did get me somewhat interested. And I think just naturally, like getting a little older and thinking about these things, you naturally start to see more news and read more news. So I definitely don't think I was any advanced political knowledge. It's just I became the average adult, probably.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about your practice with science communication, especially on a medium like this. Like you have to be able to reach out to a general audience, and it's something a lot of our colleagues are just not practiced at.
Right.
So I think
I do think I was definitely ahead of the game in terms of science communication, but I think that's often confused with like science communication that can actually shape policy and change lives versus just clicks and being part of the larger sort of information ecosystem. Whether it's good information or bad information is hard to differentiate for a lot of people.
Yeah. And so the fellowship, it was the AAAS and the ACS every year. I understand they do 2 of these or something like that.
So AAAS technically runs the thing, and this is the American Association for the Advancement of Science. They're the ones that are running this fellowship, but they offer a certain number of them, and they reserve certain of them for individual societies. So
that's interesting. They outsource targeting individuals of different disciplines then.
Wide left. Laces out, Dan. Yeah. So
that follows up with a comment from Pokemon. I thought Melko would go with the Dolphins.
Yeah. Okay, so this person must actually know about my Dolphin fandom. And I was just talking about that in 1997 when this game came out. I was a huge Dolphins fan, so I probably should. I mean, that's why I'm losing. Let's be honest. Because I didn't choose the Dolphins.
Pokemon, thank you for the follow, by the way. Thank you for joining us. Laces out, Dan. Also a reference to Ace Ventura.
Yes.
I've learned to no longer use any of my pop culture references in class because they are all very outdated.
Yeah, they're not pop culture anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They're like
oldies.
Trivial Pursuit. That's where they end up now. That's where.
Do students even know what Trivial Pursuit is?
Oh my God. I mean, it was one of those things like I thought The Simpsons was timeless, but then it's not anymore, and it's still going, but should it be? He knows me as a CS student, talking about my course and the times I asked for help and got saved. Well, kudos to you. Pokemon, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you have a drink in hand. Speaking of drink, Josh, what are we drinking tonight?
This is an APA, American Pale Ale from Proof Brewing, 850. The first time I've had this, but I guess Proof is a local brewery, and I always, as a brewing advocate and home brewer, at least not much anymore, used to be home brewer, always like to pick up a local brew and try it, and it's quite good. Yeah, Proof is they've blown up over the last 10 years or so. They've switched their brewing location like 3 times because they've grown so much, and they're in grocery stores and all sorts of stuff. But maybe you can answer this question for me, because this is an American Pale Ale, but sometimes it's labeled as an IPA. What is the difference? Good question. Mostly, usually how hoppy it is and what the ABV is, but I think it's much about how hoppy it is going to be. And so the American Pale Ale was just like in America, it became what people thought, more aggressive pale ales would be tamed down to suit American taste profiles, because it used to be Americans drank Bud Light and that was pretty much it. Right? And it's not, there we go. And it's not so much different now, but we have a lot more selection. So it was just a tamed down version of IPA. IPA, India Pale Ale, came into existence because they had to add a crap ton of hops to keep the beer preserved. The hops were a preservative on its trip from England to India. So they called it an India Pale Ale, and it was super, super hoppy because it needed all those preservatives. And so they just took that and tamed down the hops and called it an American Pale Ale.
So if you mix an IPA with a Bud Light, you get American Pale Ale.
Yeah,
is that what I learned?
I think that's exactly
blend them
right.
together. I don't know what the technical name for that is, but all right. Schmonite, thank you for joining us against your better judgment. We're glad to have you here.
This is it. 25 seconds left. The game is tied. I just did a suicide blitz to knock him out of field goal range.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting off with high-pressure gameplay.
Yeah, 20 seconds. No!
Oh.
Now they're in field goal range. I think this calls for another suicide blitz.
Pokemon. I can't believe I'm done with college after Wednesday. Spelled Wednesday incorrectly. I love the irony of that.
Oh, dear.
Graduation. No, but congratulations. That's awesome. I mean, it's such a major hurdle, and you've been jumping through hoops for at least, 20 years of your life? So, yeah, jump through this hoop. Move on to bigger and better things. getting my professor signature.
Nice.
Awesome.
Congrats, Pokemon. 6 seconds.
It's a lovely random number generator. All right, I interrupted the conversation. So the fellowship, it's managed by the AAAS, but they outsource it to the ACS.
Yeah, they outsource some of them.
APS and
APS gets a couple. So,
MRS
I mean, AAAS runs, I should back up 1 second. AAAS runs the whole fellowship, which consists of putting people in Congress on Capitol Hill, but it also puts people in executive agencies like NSF, NASA, CDC, like FDA, DOE, anything you could think of. So they put about 200 people in federal agencies like that. They put 30 people on Capitol Hill in Senate offices or House offices.
Wow.
Those Congress ones on the Hill, they outsource two to ACS, two to APS, two to Mathematics Society, optics engineers, and even, as a chemist, I could apply through multiple ones of those. So this is open to really anybody with a PhD and a U.S. citizen can apply for these things. And you can apply for both the executive branch, the agencies where there's 200 of them available, and the congressional ones where there's only 30. And as long as you have a PhD in a science field and you are an American citizen, then you are eligible.
So is there like an interview process? How did that?
Yeah. You submit the application, there's letters of rec, all the normal stuff, and then...
You're going to do Dolphins now?
I'm going to, because I want to win this game. Jaguars, it's hard to win when you're a Jacksonville Jaguar. So the Dolphins this year are doing well, 8-3 or something, I think. So, I forgot it shows you actually the ratings of each of these teams. Miami,
what
great
was Jacksonville?
passer.
Go back up to...
Yeah, see, they were decent, although... Oh, yeah, Brunel. There you go. Fred Taylor. Smith, Jimmy Smith, I think. I guess I did know most of them. Marino, Jabbar, OJ McDuffie.
Passing.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you do in this game, so.
Yeah.
So who would have been the best then? Bledsoe, New England, I guess?
I don't know why it's counting you down. What is this shit? This isn't a high-pressure moment.
So, yeah, you interview... you did like a phone interview, a Zoom interview, and the Zoom interview was actually pretty intense because halfway through they stop you and they say, okay, here's a prompt. You have 5 minutes. Come back and you have to pitch us or like describe like how you're going to attack this. And they just want you to be able to think. I think nobody answers it well, but it was a bit jarring just to get like, besides the normal questions, like, okay, use 5 minutes. Here are 2 prompts. You pick one. When you come back, you have to explain your policy take, what you would do, things like that.
So you don't have to give your specific ones, but like what's an example?
No, I don't even remember. I blacked out in that time, I think. But it was, I think the one I chose was something about in the Northwest, you work at an agency like the Interior Department or something that governs forests, and somebody wants to build something that's going to protect or bring on like clean energy or something, but it's also going to destroy like a certain section of this forest. And so you have to advise your representative or your senator, whoever you're working for, what are the pros and cons, what do we do, and if you're not sure what to do, how do you begin to gather information and shape what you decide to do.
Okay.
And so I have no idea what I said, but something about first I would want to talk to these people and solicit advice, and they kind of probe a little bit further, and they'd ask you stuff like, okay, well, what if the senator came back and said something that to be scientifically inaccurate? What would you do? And I said the totally wrong thing, which was I would correct him and tell him that like the science doesn't support this. I can't go along with that plan. And they were like, I mean, you could try that, but you'd probably get fired. You cannot like disagree once the senator or a representative has like made up their mind, especially if you're like brand new to the job. Like obviously if you've worked for them the whole career and you have some like relationship, okay, but as a new fellow to the office, you can't be like, I'm better than you and the science doesn't support this. Like these things are so multifaceted that science, you have to come to realize, unfortunately, it's just like one input parameter. We don't live in like this technocracy or meritocracy or whatever you want to think we might live in.
Nice.
Thanks. So they're weighing that scientific input that you're providing them with, what it's going to do to local jobs in the state, or, how is it going to affect the broader economy? So all these things they're deciding on, and all you can do is give them the best scientific input you can.
I mean, at least they gave you like a reasonable scenario. It wasn't just like a how many pennies are in this room or like defend the Holocaust or something.
Right.
No,
it was very, very like policy focused for sure.
Data basic solution is deploy the rock. Dwayne Johnson can solve any problem according to data basics. I don't know enough to say you're wrong, so deploy the rock. All right, so you had that interview process, and then it's just like
then you do the phone interview, you do a Zoom interview, and then I think there was like a second phone interview with some higher up person that got to decide for sure. And all the while, like there's a set of interviews for the Congressional Fellowship, and there's a set of interview for the executive, and you're applying to both because why not? Mm-hmm. And there's more executive fellowships, so it's pretty intensive just with all the interviews you're juggling. But after that, it was pretty quick for them to say, "Okay, you got it," and it was just like a phone call where they said that. So then you're like, okay, now we have 2 weeks to decide, do we want to do this for sure?
2 weeks?
Pretty much everybody says yes, because you're not going through all that if you're going to say no.
I suppose, but 2 weeks.
I mean, it was also somewhat...
Ooh, nice.
Remain tied. It was also somewhat complicated because I would say most people that apply to this aren't faculty. They are... they've got their PhD, but they might be in a postdoc, or they might be just coming out of PhDs, out of their doctorate. There's certainly some faculty that apply and get these things, maybe 25% or something. Mm-hmm. But, I did also have to arrange to be on sabbatical. So that was, once I did get offered the position, I had to go to my university and say, I have the official offer. Can we get a sabbatical approved for me to spend the year doing this? And it's actually a pretty easy thing to sell to a university that you're going to go work on Capitol Hill and give your university some name recognition and elevate this. So not a lot of people are doing that. So I think that's a pretty easy sell. I mean,
so you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but the fellowship paid you during that? So when you were on leave, you were salary free at UNF. Okay.
Sort of, yes. You can get this way sabbatical structure works at my university is if you take a whole year sabbatical, you get half pay.
I see.
Although we had to figure out like who was paying for health insurance and all of these things, but there is a stipend with the fellowship.
I see.
And so you just have to work together with your university to figure out who's paying what and make sure you're not eclipsing any requirements in terms of, I don't know, some tax considerations or something by the university, and not double dipping or something.
So Shmonite has a follow-up on that. Do you know the acceptance rate?
I don't. I think for the executive fellowships where they have like 200, it's like, oh no. It's much better because there's 200. They're still competitive, but my guess is they get we have 1,000 applications and they award 200.
It's not too bad.
So it's not too bad. And I mean, out of those 1,000, really probably 600 are good competitive, and the other 400 like aren't eligible or just not like super competitive. So maybe a 1 in 3 rate. The congressional ones, I get the feeling there's a lot more competition because most people that are applying for the executive are also going to apply for the congressional and just sort of hope. Mm-hmm. But, I think I was very unique. I had some unique things to bring to the table. Being a faculty member and somebody that was mid-career, ACS, I think, happened to be looking for something like that this year. And so like so many things that students apply for, or anybody applies for, like all you can do is throw the dart and throw the best dart you can, right? Mm-hmm. It's still about what they're looking for at any particular point in time.
What sucks is they might not even be playing darts that year.
Right.
They might be playing pool. That's the way it works.
Yep. So I think I really benefited from, them saying, like a mid-career tenured faculty person that just got tenure is looking for, this is not necessarily a career pivot, but something they can bring back to the university. And as part of my application, I was like, I agree with my university to teach a course on science policy if I get this fellowship. And so I think that's really appealing to ACS to have undergraduate students learn about science policy that not a lot of them are. And especially at my university, they wouldn't. They get zero of that in our curriculum, right?
I mean, what's cool is you can cross-list that political science and
so I think
sciences.
that was really appealing to ACS. And then I think the fact that I did Twitch streaming, they were like, we don't know what this is. That sounds so cool. And so you just need like something that sets you apart like that, right? So I think my application was very competitive just because I had something unique and they happened to be looking, oh my gosh. They happened to be looking for somebody like me that year.
A quick follow-up on that. So you didn't teach that class this semester. Is that
in the spring?
You're officially teaching? Any idea how many
students? It's on the books. 15, I think, are registered right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Don't ask me.
Schmonite, thank you for the insights. Turnover. I'll give you another rage.
Yeah.
When she's coming out. Yeah, if at any point you want to change games or anything, let me know.
But I'll finish this game out, but it's not looking good.
Where is
there we go.
Beautiful.
All right. This is going better. Yeah, so we have 15 students taking it in the spring. And you might ask, what's going to be in the course? What does the curriculum look like? And those are all great questions one could ask.
Yeah, after finals, we'll figure it out.
You played this game before.
There will be a syllabus in about 3 weeks, I promise. Yes. Just before Christmas break, something will be on the books.
Exactly.
Don't worry, we're professionals. We have our shit together. That's awesome. I mean, but that's the thing, even just talking about your experience, which I really appreciate you joining me again. For those of you that don't know, Josh was on the stream previously. It was probably a year and a half ago. It was several months before you left for the internship, but we did it remote when he was at home, and we did through Discord, actually. But it was really exciting to talk about. And I remember a specific exchange we had, like, when you come back, are you going to have a dead look in your eyes from the soul-sucking experience of being Washington, D.C.? But I'm glad to see you still have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah, it was life-changing. I wouldn't have changed anything. It was a great experience and did actually restore my faith in government.
Oh, man. But now you're back to teaching. Is it refreshing to be back?
It was at first, but it's like, oh, no. Thank goodness. It was way more work coming back to. I guess it's like a muscle and you don't remember, you don't use it, you lose it sort of thing, because I just like, it was way more work than I remember to get back up to speed. But I think that's also because like I'm coming back post-COVID and the students, I don't know if you've noticed this, are very different. They are, demanding isn't quite the word, but like, because that sounds very negative. Some of them are just like less they're going to ask for things and they just want all these things. They're want all the resources and they're less filtered. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I want to help them and I want to give them things and it's just a lot more work. And they expect, videos for all the lectures and things like that. Yeah. Because that's what they're used to.
It's I regularly tell students, like, I would love to do all that, but like you're asking me to do more and I don't have the resources. Right. Like the university just put that on us and there wasn't additional support or time or effort or pay or anything. It was just like, do more. And that happened across the board for a lot of people.
Right.
And then it didn't go away, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Here it is, though. You're on the drive. Down 6 points.
So I gotta go to my the bomb.
Shh, don't whisper.
Got it.
Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Oh, I'm so tempted to just quit this game right here.
Oh man.
Where's the review?
Where's the Vannucci rage comes back again.
I was over the goal line. The plane had been broken.
Oh my god. That was amazing. If I made highlights for the stream, that would have been one. No, that was on the 1 yard line. Oh, ladies and gentlemen.
That's embarrassing.
Just got humbled. It was a beautiful drive. Oh, it's a beautiful drive too.
I pressed the button to dive forward into the end zone, and I just left the ball, I guess, behind me.
Oh man. It's okay. You got time. This is stop.
I'm embarrassed.
ESPN clip. The what is it? It's not the top tens. It's what do they call
top plays or something now? I don't know.
Yeah, I watch it on YouTube. Turns out I don't like watching sports. I just want to watch the highlights. Sports just take too much time. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, that's students want to watch the lectures on double speed.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
I mean, I can't hold it against them. It's a different world we're in.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
Yeah, we'll see in the next fall. We're going to go to active learning strategy in our Gen Chem 2. So 20-minute recording ahead of time, like a 10-minute lecture, and then like active questions in class. So they'll have the video, but they'll also have the class component. Oh, kill the clock.
Yeah, last time.
22 seconds.
Go for 2.
Man, I had an economist on that was talking about, turns out they should go for 2 more often than they do.
Oh, the analytics for sure says you should. And I think a lot more coaches are now.
Yeah.
I think it's something like 60% of the time or something they should, but maybe 40% of the time they do now or something.
It's like tradition drives it more.
Yeah, I mean, that was all like, that's the Moneyball effect on football, is they just like really figured out, if you search through the data, these are the things that win games more than they lose, so we should do more of that.
Yeah.
And that's why passing is so much bigger now. It's because it just returns more yards on average.
Well, and it happened in the NBA too. The 3-pointer took over everything.
Steph Curry is, a result of Moneyball and baseball transferring to these other sports. Okay, this is pretty serious here.
Okay, there's a second left.
God.
It's the biggest return.
Can I lateral? Guess not.
I don't even know what this game. That was a good game, though.
That was a very exciting game.
That was, the fumble on the 1-yard line. You want me to clip that for you?
Yeah, don't ever show me that again.
Oh, it's okay. It'll only be on YouTube.
Yeah, true.
All right, you want to change it up?
Yes.
I mean, one more. You could win this.
Let me actually pick a good team.
Not the Florida teams. All right, back to your journey to Capitol Hill. All right, you had 2 weeks notice to say yes or no, and they gave you a time window when you had to be there, like it's a congressional cycle, or how does that?
Yeah, basically you start in August, so it lines up very nicely with the school year. Oh, of course, the Cowboys are the best team. Yeah, that makes sense. Got to play with Brett Favre. Welfare champion, stealing all this money now, and
not in 1997.
Yeah,
he was still
right.
okay.
He was still okay then.
Yeah, as far as we know.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure something else will come to light. I should look up these codes, find out.
It lines up in August, so you go about the regular school year start time, and the first 3 weeks is like an orientation, because they assume, and they're mostly right, that really not much at all about how the government really works. So you can pay attention to the news, and it doesn't mean you really understand like what day-to-day life is like in the Senate, and what the rules are, what you can and can't do, like what federal agencies are important for certain policy topics, et cetera, et cetera. So
I mean, but new Congress people go through the same training, right? It's
so you do a couple weeks of that, and then you do a week of interviews with offices you might want to work for. And the beautiful part of that is that once you get the fellowship, you are like vetted. And so the offices on the Hill want you. Like there's only 28 or 30 of you.
Yeah.
They know you're going to be productive. They know you're a hard worker, yada, yada, yada. Like they don't have somebody with a PhD in their office, and you're free to them. So
that's a good point.
That's very, very
you
appealing
have the fellowship. All right, so they interview you. Did you like come in as a group? Do you know the other AAAS
Yeah, so
fellows?
it's a night. I mean, that's really cool for just like building camaraderie and socializing. But yep, for sure you do. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. So that's really nice. But you're all going through this process at the same time. And so some of you are competing over the same people you might want to work for. But really, it all really works out in the end. It's like I came in knowing I really, really like to work with this person. And I ended up being able to work for that person. That's not always the case. And I was tempted to choose somebody else and almost did. But in the end, it was a good fit. So you do like a week of interviews. I think it's like 15 different offices you interview with, sometimes more than once. And it's nice now having it on Zoom, but I guess before that you would have to like run back and forth all day across like the Senate and the House and go back and forth and stuff. So it's much better to do that on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then you have like 2 days to decide then after offers go out. It's kind of like grad school where like you do rotations and you say like these are the top 3 or something and they choose you and you have to choose them sort of thing. So yeah.
That's pretty intense. I mean, so you could have gone the route working for someone that was antithesis to science, right? You could have done like Marco Rubio or something.
Yeah.
Like what was your strategy in picking?
Oh, I mean, I'm an academic. I researched the heck out of this ahead of time. And I was very torn initially. Like, could I make a bigger difference in an office that normally would not value science? And in retrospect, that is a very dumb question to ask. Because they would not really use you to your fullest potential. And while it sounds good in theory that you would be in there making the difference, like they're also the kind of office that probably is just going to ask you to do certain things that sound sciencey, and that's all they're going to ask you to do, and not really, so unlucky, not really like use your skills. And like if you come up with a good idea, like the prospect of you bring it to them and changing their mind is like not going to happen. And so luckily that didn't even become an issue because you get a list of all the offices looking for like to bring a science policy advisor on, and there were 0 Republican offices in the Senate.
Wow.
You can still go off book and reach out to them, and some did, but yeah.
Did people join those?
We had, I think, one or two from our 30-person cohort going to Republican offices.
And you had a conversation with them at some point?
No. I did not.
Wow.
Some people did, but no, it was
wow.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's super depressing. If anyone's grasping the magnitude of what was just stated, like
there's
you
a
have
free
a free
PhD
that will talk to you about science, explain science, write about science. Nah, we're not even going to consider it.
And I mean, that's the cynical way to look at it. I don't think it's wrong. But, you know, the other side of it is they've never had them. They don't really know how to use them. So, you know, it's also the case that, oh, it's so beautiful. It's also the case that Democrats, there were plenty of Democratic offices that weren't looking for a science policy advisor because they don't know the program exists. They've never had one, and maybe they don't have the infrastructure to like train and bring somebody up to speed. And so there's some of that it's hard to get started.
Yeah.
And so maybe that was part of it.
I mean, it's just one of those when it's a 0 statistic, it says something big, right? Like when it's like less than, maybe you get it, but man, that's something else.
And in the House, there was a fair amount of House Republican offices, but not so much in the Senate.
Wow, that's pretty intense. We should probably do a prediction. Which one do you want to go with first?
Maybe the second one there, since we're...
Oh, yeah. No, that is a fun dovetail.
Pokemon fan says, "Let's go Bears touchdown."
Yeah, you're getting actively cheered against.
I know.
Glad we didn't
All right, Suicide Blitz on the Bears. There you go. Ooh.
Eat it, Pokemon.
Take it back, Pokemon.
Doubter. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not following us, click the follow button, get your 300 standard internet units on Ask a Scientist Gaming. We don't use our predictions for gaming, although we could, predicting who's going to win this game. Instead, we use it for science, or in this case, science policy-related questions. So if you guys are not following, click follow, use your standard internet units. You can make us drink or request a factoid. Here's the question. The true-false question. 0 members of Congress have a PhD in science. True or false? Are there 0 PhDs in science in Congress? And note, you are on Ask a Scientist Gaming honor policy. You can't look this up on Google. You have to do this from your intuition or your knowledge of whatever it might be, or whatever you've gleaned from Josh's gameplay that might lead you to the answer on this question. Feel free to make your prediction now. If you haven't done predictions before, at the top of the chat, you can click that predict button and you can bet as many standard internet units you want. Keep in mind, they're pretty much useless. Not pretty much. They are useless outside this channel, but you can make us drink alcohol, which we are happy to do on a Thursday night.
This is fun.
Actually, not super excited about drinking on a Thursday night. It's 8 a.m. Gen Chem 2 tomorrow. That's fine. It's only a 350-person class. I do like
350?
Yeah, that's what our Gen Chem is.
Why?
I mean, it's just we have so many students. I mean, FSU is gigantic.
What is the TA help for that look
I get
like?
4 TAs for that.
Okay.
So it's not too bad. And
Yeah.
TAs have recitation sections each, so 3 sections, 26 or 28 students.
So it's a 3-credit class?
Yep.
And how many hours are they with you per week in
So
the
we
classroom?
have 3 lecture and then 1 hour recitation. 3 1-hour lectures, sorry, and then 1 hour of recitation.
Yeah, I wonder how that works.
In terms of,
Because we're like, so twice a week you're teaching a 1-hour class or 50 minutes.
I'm 3 times a week. I'm teaching 50 minutes.
Okay, so that's 150 minutes, but then they also have recitations. Then
Yep.
that's not a credit?
That's not an independent credit. That is part of the Gen Chem class, which I think is kind of unfair in terms of the time when you actually do the math on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think our 3-credit classes are 150 minutes per week,
Yep.
not a recitation.
Yeah.
Huh.
No, that's I never had recitation.
Are the
I went
recitations
to a
graded?
PUI. They can be. Like it's
okay.
it's taught by the TAs. It's like you can think about it as a glorified office hour, or maybe you do homework or something like that. But
Okay, but there's not a penalty to their Gen Chem grade if they don't go to recitation.
all right, we have one prediction, and the answer is false. So, Josh, what is the actual answer?
It is false.
It is false.
There are no PhDs in science in the Senate, but there are several in the House, actually. A couple math, I think of physics, engineering. Shimona, you win. You win all the points.
Enjoy your standard internet points. Request a factoid. Use an emote. Whatever you want to do with them. But that's intriguing.
A lot of courses have 300 students. Wow.
Yeah. Physics, chemistry, any of the introductory courses. And it's a lot. I mean, mostly, as a teacher, I do multiple choice tests now, so I don't have to deal with the grading and stuff like that. But the email traffic, that's where it gets you.
Yeah, I could see that.
But
Oh, come on.
it's one of those things. If you're doing just traditional lecture, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. If you're trying to actually engage people, then obviously it's much, much harder.
Right. God, this play is just a cheat code in itself.
Killing it.
Take that, Pokemon. Multiple choice exams are the worst unless it's open note. Yeah, I've done statistics on this sort of thing for my Gen Chem 2 class.
Yeah.
It does not matter whether it's all multiple choice, whether it's all free response, whether it's half multiple choice, half free response, whether it's all multiple choice and only one long answer graded section. It really doesn't affect the grade distribution. And while maybe certain students might do different, on average,
In general, it's going to be.
in general, it's exactly the same. So I made the mistake this semester of not remembering that I had learned that and are doing long answer sections that I hand grade, and I don't have graders or TAs.
Ooh.
I have 100 students in that class, so that takes way too long, and it doesn't make a difference. The students like it more, but they don't do any better on those types of problems.
I think the partial credit gives an artificial sense of accomplishment.
Right.
And it's something you just multiple choice is just stone cold. It's either right or it's wrong. There's no regrade, there's no request. So I think there's a lot of psychology in it, but yeah, you're right. If I've done some of this literature searching, and if n is greater than 50, it's a Gaussian. And it's always going to be. And the same students will generally be on top and generally be on the bottom.
Oh. That was a very bad missed tackle.
That was another close game.
Thank you.
Did you drain the swamp? Or did you make it worse just by showing up?
I did my part.
You brought the Florida swamp to DC.
Thank you, Dunstable. I like to think I did something, but time will tell. And actually, we did accomplish a lot. I was one small actor in it, but I do think a lot got done in the past year.
You were there at a good time.
For sure.
In terms of, it's not perfect by any means, but at least there's democratic control across the board.
Yep.
You could actually pass things.
Yep.
Whether Manchin wanted it or not.
Oh, God. I'll talk a lot about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
specifically about that?
About Manchin, yeah. Yeah, he was the rate limiting step to anything that got accomplished.
Yeah.
It's crazy that one person can have that much power.
He milked it for everything it was worth, too.
Yeah, everything broke just perfectly in terms of the composition of the Senate and everything. But yeah, 12 years ago, he killed climate policy in the Senate that moved through the House, that was successful, that was led by the guy that I worked for 12 years ago. Joe Manchin was the one that killed that deal in the Senate. There's an ad when he was running for the Senate where he said, and I'm going to kill the cap and trade bill, which was at the time, a very ambitious piece of climate legislation.
Yeah.
And the video of him was saying, you know, I'm sponsored by the NRA, and he gets out a rifle and shoots through the actual bill because it's like
That's a thing.
a West Virginia advertisement.
Yeah.
And so this was 12 years ago, and yet, you know, here we are a decade later, and now we do have a bunch of climate legislation that we're proud of, but he was still the rate limiting step to anything getting done. Here we go, suicide blitz. No!
Oof. It's okay. Still time.
Yeah, and like 2 seconds
Is it
Pokemon.
sudden death?
Doesn't matter, we're not going to need it.
Confidently.
Because I'm going to fumble it, and they're
cheat play. Cheat play. Let's see it. Oh, all right.
I do, Pokemon. I do remember that.
Remember the time when Hummel's office and data structure, huge bug in my code. Nice. Making a difference. That's what matters.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was a huge DC power player, Shimonite, for sure. Manchin was the power broker. I think that's right. So what, do we tie here? What's 2 minutes of overtime, huh?
I gotta assume it's sudden death. I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
I can do this.
We'll pause the discussion.
We'll just go to this very special play I've never run before, and we'll...
Just remember, mediocre gameplay. That's all we ask of you.
asked and delivered.
No, you're actually doing well. I've had some guests that literally haven't played for 30 years, and they bust out, like, Space Invaders. Oh, okay. Is that it?
That's not it.
All right.
Overtime 1, it says. So it's specified, so it's clearly...
Pokemon took that personally.
Yeah, well, he has money on the Bears in this game, so that explains that.
We should have done a prediction before overtime. Take that, Bears fans.
That's right.
The Bears, this would have been... No, that would have been post the Bears SNL.
Yeah, that was...
That would have been early 90s.
Early 90s.
I mean, so do you watch sports?
Oh, yeah. Huge sports fan.
Like college or pro or...
Mostly pro these days. College, when I was in college and younger, I was at UF and we had Tebow, and that was really fun. And then I went to Penn State for grad school and big football school. That's very fun. So, yeah, I always loved college football too, but I'd say NFL was always my, like, first love and main sport.
Yeah.
And right now, World Cup, obviously, I'm watching a lot, but I watch really any sport. Golf, tennis, doesn't matter. Less tennis, but NFL, I love. Basketball, I'll watch the playoffs. Baseball, I'll watch the playoffs. Football, I'll always watch anytime. Why do I still have the ball? So I guess it's just... I might as well just, like, get sacked and run out the clock here, right? I have the lead.
I mean, unless they have weird rules, and that's what this game's kind of about. We'll see what unfolds.
Pickleball, I do not watch pickleball.
Have you seen the Ocho subreddit?
I have not.
It's excellent. It's exactly what you'd expect. Those of you not familiar, it was the movie Dodgeball introduced the Ocho.
Oh,
It was
for
like
sure.
the ESPN. If you go far enough down the list, you get the random whatever sports. There's a subreddit called the Ocho, which is pretty spectacular. It shows you all those from people playing soccer with bicycles to
Now, the smart
pole
thing
jumping
to do here would be to punt. Because there's only 6 seconds left. But I want to give the Bears a chance, you know?
I think ESPN actually embraced the Ocho and they like ran obscure sports.
I mean, that's what
for,
you
like,
do,
months.
right? You like lean into it, and
I mean, you might as well. Some of them are just really fun.
Packers win.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Brett Favre never let me down.
All right. What do you want to do next? So the list is GoldenEye, Donkey Kong Country, Lion King, Mario Kart 64, Super Bomberman, and anything you can think of, I can probably dig it up.
I really want to play Mario Kart.
All right.
Yeah.
I think last time you were on, you played the Super Nintendo version, right?
And Pong. We could do a predicted for the next game, or vote for the next game, I guess.
Don't say Pong. My previous guest actually suggested Pong. I was like, we can't do Pong on Twitch. Or maybe it's huge. I don't know. Twitch is a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's
Do you
gonna
have a
hit.
second controller? That's not how this works.
I mean, I don't know. I don't for the Nintendo 64. Yeah, usually I just grill you while you're playing.
Yeah, that sounds
Well, most of my guests can't watch chat and play at the same time, but yeah. Like I said earlier, Josh is a veteran of Twitch. I
I've been
guess you didn't play a lot of video games.
doing
on
this
stream.
mediocrely for a long time.
I'm impressed by like the high level players that just glance over at chat, answer questions, and
It's incredible.
yeah.
Yeah. I do miss streaming.
I mean, it's fun. It's a community, right? Like you build this audience, and because you were regular, like you were twice a week or something like
Yeah,
that.
I was... Where are you going this way? That's right.
I mean, that's one of the things, like, I love doing the stream, but because we only do it every 2 weeks, it's, like, I think we average something like 10 or 11 follows per stream, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But also, we don't stream enough to build the rates
Yep.
need
You got to be
to
doing it a couple hours at a time, which you are, but you also have to be doing it like,
several days a week.
yeah, a couple times a week to build that audience. And then if you take 2 weeks off, that's it. You've killed a lot of that growth.
Yeah.
And if you take a whole year off, like me, I don't know how many people I would have if I came back,
I mean,
but we'll figure it out.
I mean, thankfully, not a lot of people, like, unfollow.
That's
unless
true.
they're-
And I will say, like, the first stream back or something is usually pretty well attended and pretty big. People are hyped about that, but it's hard to keep that momentum up.
I mean, so if you've set a threshold, you're like, the kid's 1 or something like that, you'll try, or...
I mean, I'm not against trying it now. It's just I'd like to prepare for it, and I'd like to really be able to do it for like 3 hours. And I don't think I really, because, well, here's the other thing. I don't have a streaming setup at home. My work computer is my streaming computer.
Oh, I see.
So I have to do it at work. And like I said before, like I just haven't found chunks of 2 to 3 hours. I mean, I'm trying to start my research lab again and failing spectacularly at that.
Oh, yeah,
Teaching
you're
is
starting
taking
from scratch with new undergrads now,
right
too. Yeah,
right, because
brutal.
everybody graduated and I left
Yeah.
for the year. So, you know, it's that, although that's not a fair excuse because I really have not gotten a lot accomplished there.
But that
it's
green
really
shell
just-
was on point, so
Thank you.
well done.
I think it's just teaching has taken much more time than I remember.
Yeah. Well, I think next semester you'll fall back in.
Yeah, I mean,
way.
I will have to like have a new prep with regard to science policy, and that'll take a lot of time. And I mean, this semester, I did teach a new class in this physical chemistry course I developed. We switched textbooks in Gen Chem 2. Like, there was a lot of extra stuff to do.
What are you guys using now?
We now are using Tro. We were using Brown LeMay.
OpenStax. We talked about this previously, the Rice University free book.
Oh, yeah, it's great. You don't
Yeah.
have to convince me of this.
I mean, it's crazy because Gen Chem has not changed much in the last 3 decades.
Right.
Let's
Is that
be
what you guys are
honest.
using?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use OpenStax. But obviously you have to convince many people that may or may not have a deal with certain publishers.
Yes.
Anyway, Dunstable Ramsey, Professor Melko, you're going to come back to a massive welcome. So
Thank you.
encouraging words. Well, I'm glad you could join us here. For those of you not familiar with the backstory, so Josh and I met. It had to have been like 2015 or 2016, and I was invited to UNF to give a talk about my research and recruit students and stuff like that. We met there the first time, and then it was like 3 years ago when I put a post on the Twitch subreddit, like saying, "Hey, I want to set up this stream for science Q&A. Does anyone have advice on how to set this up?
That
what I
was
should get?"
where, yeah, okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and that's when you messaged me, and then they like deleted your message because you like had your Twitch.
Oh, right,
name
I
or
was
something.
advertising.
Yeah, but then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
got
it's
in touch
just a
by
shameless
email.
plug that I was
Yeah.
trying to steal your viewership. It's really
Exactly,
my ploy.
literally dozens of people. But we got in touch after that through email, and yeah, back and forth, and
I forgot
then
about
yeah, you
that.
were a guest on the stream as a remote, which was awesome. And
What was I doing on the Twitch subreddit streets?
I have no idea, but that's where you found that post, which I was really surprised. I'm like, does he just lurk here? Like, is this
This is how I get my viewers.
just one at a time?
These are the secrets I
Just hunt him down.
have. What did Dunstable say there? Are you optimistic about the political process, or was it like finding out about how hot dogs are made? Nah, I mean, you always hear the sausage making analogy, and I mean, I guess that's true in some respects, but no, I left there with like way more optimism and restored faith in the government than I did entering. And I mean, look, to be honest, yes, our democracy is in peril, and there's so much about just like the basics of voting and who gets to vote and how easy or hard it is, and whether voting machines are rigged or not. Kind of stuff that is very depressing, but that's the reality. But that said, like, I thought incorrectly that, like, okay, I have a PhD, and like, I mean, I didn't really think I'm going to be smarter than everybody there, but I was like, you know, I have all this wealth of science knowledge. Wouldn't they like all love to have a PhD working for them? And while most of the time that's true, there's incredibly bright people working in the Senate. The senators have staffs of 40 people or something. Like, they're all out of like Ivy League law schools, you know, they all have advanced degrees. They're all like super duper smart and hardworking.
Yeah, they're all the high achievers.
Yeah,
right?
and like you don't. I never really thought about it from that perspective, but it makes perfect sense. Like, I kind of thought there's a senator in a room, and he's like just reading Twitter and deciding how to vote on stuff, and that might be true for like Ted Cruz and stuff, but that's not like true for most senators. Like, they're surrounding themselves with like really bright people who are very passionate about the things that senators passionate about, and are working incredibly hard to make a difference and real change in the world for the better. And they are just tireless in their efforts, and it's so incredibly rewarding to like work alongside them, and I learned so much from them. So in that respect, I am like so much more thrilled with, or just have so much more faith in the government institution. There's a lot of people working really hard to make a really positive change in the world for us, for our children, et cetera, and so I'm just so hopeful. Doesn't mean I'm not also incredibly discouraged a lot of the time.
I mean, so that made you more optimistic. Is there something that made you more jaded? Was there any epiphanies that you're like, well, look at that?
I mean, it's in some respects, it's the things that aren't easy to change, like just the architecture of how the government is. Like, the people behind the scenes are incredibly hardworking and really, really smart, and that left me with so much hope. But like, understanding more about the embedded structure and how, you know, it's not equitable for everybody, and that's just like part of how the game is set up. And gerrymandered districts and all things of that nature are really hard to change. So I just learned more about how many problems there are with the system, but I'm encouraged that we are able to move that in a better direction. It just takes a really long time, and change is incremental. So I mean, that was one thing. I just learned a lot more about just how bad it is from a structural standpoint, but that doesn't mean there aren't plenty of people trying to change it. And then I learned like how powerful a single senator from West Virginia can be, and that was also very depressing.
Yeah.
Right.
If anything's made me more hopeful is that Gen Z turned out this election cycle. Right. Like, they're trying to do what our generation did.
Yep.
Like, we were, I don't know, idealistic and optimistic, but we didn't do anything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden this generation's like, hey, maybe we can vote. It actually mattered. Everywhere except Florida.
Yeah. Florida and New York were really, I mean, Florida I guess wasn't bizarre, but yeah, New York went much more Republican than it arguably should have this past election.
I'm curious how much of that was the COVID and also the Cuomo issue. And,
yeah.
I mean, there was so many bad things happening there.
That's fair.
Pokemon. I'm curious, have either one of you been asked for their signature by a student? Like an autograph? Like, they asked me to sign things like...
letters of recommendation?
Yeah, exactly. But like an autograph?
No, but anytime I'm in office hours or anything like that and I work out a problem and the student's like, can I take that? I always sign it. Just... as a joke, because I want them to think I'm more important than I actually am.
That's amazing.
So I'm always like, here you go, this is going to be worth nothing someday.
I don't know, you've crafted some legislation. Did anything you write get passed? Codified?
No, I will say no. But stuff we worked on parts of bills we filed, got broken out and got attached to other bills that did become laws. So it's not like I wrote a bill start to finish and then it like passed. And I mean, a year is a pretty short timeline for that to happen, I learned. But I think down the road, stuff I submitted might end up passing one day, and would be incredibly awesome. But also equally awesome is like projects we worked on that we as a team were all trying to like pass. Parts of things we worked on did get attached to the Inflation Reduction Act that passed, or the Chips and Science Act that passed, or these sorts of things. So
yeah. So are you tracking this? You're still?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, invested a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be hard to look away.
Got me forever now.
It's just like a different sport.
Yeah.
You should do like a fantasy politics, like bills and betting and system, and gamify it.
Yeah, right.
People might be a lot more invested in it.
Pokemon got signatures of 3 of their professors. Wow.
Those will be worth literally zeros from now on. Shmonite, Professor Melko, what do you think about the concern of the elder age of many reps? A big problem as press makes out?
That's tough.
I would never say it's the age that's the problem, but it's what manifests.
I would say I think the lack of youth is a problem in terms of like new ideas and like energy and stuff like that. There are certainly a couple members of the House and the Senate that should not be doing their job anymore. Thankfully, they have very strong staff that are mostly doing the things for them, and that's all fine. But yeah, I think there's a handful of people that shouldn't be there. But I think, Republicans say that about Joe Biden all the time too. So part of that's an easy thing to say about people you don't politically agree with, but I think even on the Democratic side, there's a couple that should know when to retire.
I mean, it's one of those things, like, I just accept that my lens of the world is not the same as a kid entering college right now.
Right.
And it would be unfair of me to say I can represent them well.
Right.
Like, I can represent aspects of what they stand for, but if I don't have them talking to me and explaining, like, it seems like a fundamental problem. The other one, this is a factoid. If anyone wants to waste some internet points, I'll drop this bomb. But there was a paper on Reddit recently that did an analysis of, it was like 10,000 elected officials, and only 7% of them actually rent where they live.
Oh, I saw that.
The rest own houses.
Yeah.
And it's like, if only 7% have that lens,
right,
rent is going up and they're gouging you and the prices, and like you can't empathize with problems you can't understand.
Right.
It's a systemic problem.
Yeah. Luckily, the other side of that is like their staffs are all 20-somethings that are renting. So like
in D.C.
Right.
So they have their year at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the better way to. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's like framing it as a single senator can be, very, I don't know, a cynical lens, when it is a body of people working with them with a lot of different lenses, a lot of different things to say.
For sure.
So, no, I can really appreciate that. All right. Dunstable Ramsey wants to know, any behind-the-scenes encounters with politicians that were surprising? Any tea to spill?
I don't know tea to spill, but I mean, you run into them all the time. You share elevators with them. They're like, I mean, there's a reason these people are in elected positions. They're like the most charismatic people ever. So like, they'll chat you up. They're incredibly nice. They're like senator from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, who was an old college football coach, rode the elevator with, and he was just like complimentary of my watch and like who I am. Like, jeez. So there's stuff like that. And then there's special elevators for the senators where, they're busy and important. And so they get an elevator just to themselves. And then staff has an elevator for them. So a lot of times you're waiting for the elevator and chatting with senators. And then they get on theirs and you wait for your slow one. But I got on an elevator once for the staff, and Bernie Sanders was already on it. And it was just like, you really are a man of the people.
Holy
You're willing
shit.
to like.
Does he always use it?
I don't
he
think
might,
so.
Out of principle.
Right. That's what I was hoping. I doubt it, but that's what I'm going to choose to believe. Right.
Oh.
That he's just like a man of the people.
You can quote Josh here. I mean, of anyone, you'd think he would be the person to do that. Like, he'll fly coach. He doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
the senator elevator is like that brass elevator from Willy Wonka. Was it like that?
It's not. I mean, the buildings are pretty old. So.
I mean, so that was one of the things I experienced. I did that congressional briefing where I went there and talked to the Senate and House, and you probably attended a bunch of these types of
nice.
things. And it was like, the thing I noticed that was most profound is that when they talk to you, they were just so savvy. Like, we're surrounded by, mildly autistic science people all the time.
Right.
And then you go there and they're just like, they're engaged, they're making eye contact. Everything you say is the most interesting thing. And it was like, it felt immediately rewarding, but after the fact, you're like, you didn't actually care about most of what I said.
Right.
Like, I mean, is your lens on that changed?
No, I think that's right. Because, like, the senator, the representative, is the figurehead of the office. They are, like, the person in front of the cameras. They, remember, like, to... Man, I really need Yoshi to, like, fall off a cliff here. To... Ooh. No!
You have...
That was like bubbling on the goal line. Yes, that was my own shot. Oh my
God, that was amazing. Worth it. Got a highlight reel tonight.
I know. Shoot, what was I saying? Sorry, Yoshi really distracted me there.
The politicians being savvy and
right. So
believe it.
They are figureheads. They like. You have to stay in power to make a change. So they are always thinking about the next election. They are always thinking about, how do I make sure my constituents back in my district or my state see me through a positive lens? And that is often through the media, through public hearings, things that snippets are taken of. So they are very much the figurehead that wants to make a statement, that wants to seem wise and crafty. They don't always obviously know the ins and outs of everything. But they're playing to the camera, and like that's their incentive structure, because their constituents watch the news and they're going to see them saying something and they want to be viewed in a positive light. They're doing things and they know what they're talking about. So the senator or the representative is very much like the figurehead of the office that is doing all these things. And, a lot of them are really, really smart people that know a lot of ins and outs of some policies, but can't possibly know everything about the tax code, right? And, energy policy and higher ed and, everything. They just can't. So they rely on really smart people on their staffs to know those things. But, they get speeches from the people that are really, really smart. They deliver the remarks in a really smart, refreshing way. So they always seem like they know what they're talking about because it's for the media and for themselves to look good. But they can't possibly really know all the stuff. That said, I do think most of them actually do value you because they know that you are the expert and you're spending your time coming here giving an expert opinion, and their staffs are going to go use that expert opinion to actually craft good, informed expert policy. And that's what they really care about, because they know that good policy will eventually make them look good and help them stay in power and help them continue to change the world for the better.
I mean, so is there I don't know how to ask this without putting you on the spot, but like if I sat down with Barack Obama, I genuinely believe that he's a brilliant person. Like he's very smart, right? And in contrast, maybe like the Donald Trumps or the George Bushes, you wouldn't get that impression.
Yeah.
And we have this in academia too, right? Like there's certain people that are just brilliant and you can tell immediately.
Right.
I mean, did you get any of those interactions? Was there someone you're like, I thought you were smart, but it clearly came through in the exchange that you just...
I mean, I didn't get face-to-face with that many senators. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I suppose the...
I mean, I did, like, for some reason, better or for worse, really. I think because he had an office on the same hallway near us. I don't know. For some reason, there was always cameras in our hallway interviewing him. Maybe the committee was on the floor that we were on, but Ted Cruz, I really saw and heard a lot from. I didn't talk to him specifically, but I was very, very close to him. And he is like a wordsmith. Very, very good with words. Very, very compelling. But there's some things he said that it was very apparent that this is all like incredibly just a show. Yeah. And it is a show for many of them, but a lot of them like Barack Obama, you would never know that. And like a lot of times it is acting for them to some degree. It doesn't mean they don't care, but there's no way they can care that much about every single issue, right? Then they don't care about anything in some sense. So I think others are better at hiding that than others. Ted Cruz is the only one that comes to mind where I was like, oh my God, this guy's so full of...
Unstable.
Yeah.
You mean Canadian-born Raphael Edward Cruz? There's the Al Franken line. Do you remember that? It's like, I like Ted Cruz more than most of my colleagues, and I hate Ted Cruz.
I do not recall that.
He's just an eternal punching bag. But it sounds like you got the same impression. So
Oh, yeah.
No, that's perfect. All right, so Dunstable Ramsey has an interesting question, but we're going to throw up a prediction first because the question is actually on lobbying, and we have a prediction directly related to lobbying. So if you're not following, click the follow button, use your standard internet units. Let's burn some of those. Make us drink alcohol.
I am not.
All right, I'm going to put the prediction up right now. So the question is, how much annual dollars from education lobbyists are spent? Is it greater than 100 million or less than 100 million? And so, Josh, this is defined by, this is universities plus educational
Groups,
publishers.
and like consortiums that...
Anyone education related.
Yeah, it can be like educational societies that take donations from universities that then go and lobby on their behalfs.
Mm-hmm.
So those sorts of things.
And so this is people pushing an agenda in the educational system at any level. How much do they spend on lobbying? Is it greater than 100 million or less than 100 million? This is one of those, like, I'm going to pretend I don't know the answer to it because I didn't look at the answer the initial time, but like it's one of those you're like, well, that's a big business and should be spent a lot, but you can contrast with it, like, how much does it take to buy a congressman? How expensive are they actually?
Right.
And this is something I don't necessarily have perspective on, but presumably when you answer this question, you'll give insights. All right. How much annual dollars from educational lobbyists? Is it greater than 100 million or less than 100 million dollars? I'll be curious if you know off the top of your head other lobbying, because there's obviously, oil, alternative energy. There's a lot of things. Every issue you can imagine, there is a lobbyist doing something to push it.
Yep.
All right, you guys have about 30 seconds left. How much annual dollars from education lobbyists? How much money flows in?
This is a much harder level than I remember.
Womps. All right, Josh. Oh, wait, we have 10 seconds left. Throw your answers in then now. That's fun. We got some confidence betting on this one. I really like that you can choose how much you bet on the answer, how confident you are.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on Twitch.
I'll show you. So this is, well, I'll wait till after your race.
Just wait till I cross the bridge.
No, it's fine.
Finally a good... What do they call question mark boxes? I don't know how...
Oh yeah, the gold mushroom. Did not exist in the original.
Oh no.
You got it back.
It's like I go for them. I thought that was the last lap.
You got time. Redemption lap. Getting the power slide. I'm impressed.
I'm not very good at it.
Apparently there's a way you can wobble in this game too. This is one of the highest, traffic speedrun games.
Really?
Yeah. Just trying to optimize every lap and checkpoints and all sorts of things.
Oh my gosh, every single banana peel.
Those are probably your bananas too.
Yeah.
From lap 1. That's how Mario works. Mario Kart works.
Yeah, I just gotta get what through. Oh, perfect. Okay. I feel good about my chances of getting third here, as long as I don't fall off the edge.
Nice. Oh.
Red shell!
Yeah, not bad. Oh. He's pretty good. So here's how they break it down. So number of people and then how much they bet. And then the payout is based on
Whoa, so the one person betting...
was very confident.
Somebody Googled the answer.
Did they Google the answer? All right, Josh, what is the official answer?
I think it's 80 million on the education.
Less than 100
so
million.
less than 100 million.
So congratulations.
One person bet big and was right.
Data Basics, congratulations on your 1.26 to 1 payout. Totally worth it in very standard internet units. But that's, I mean, less than 100 million seems small, but
That is very small.
I mean, what's the other lobbying rough order of magnitude?
So pharmaceuticals?
Yeah.
Well, guess, chat. Guess how much pharmaceuticals spent.
Yeah, somebody throw that
year.
number in chat.
Just, I mean, if education is 80, pharmaceuticals, and yeah, I mean, you can look this stuff up. I should probably after we talk about this, tell you where you can look these things up from like a reputable source. Yes, you can Google them, but that's not always the case. Hey, look at that. Pharma, I think, is number one in terms of industry, and then it's like big oil after that.
1 mole of dollars. Good use of the mole, but that's a shitload of dollars.
Yeah.
that might be more dollars than exist.
I mean, that's how many dollars were tied up in FTX crypto exchange.
According to Pro Market News Story, it's $390 million in 2021.
I think it's 800 million.
800 million.
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's the number I looked up on Open Secrets is where you want to look at this stuff. Open Secrets is really good about going through all campaign finance and like rigorously figuring out where people are tied to. So 10 times more money is spent on pharmaceuticals, and like not in a good way, not to make them cheaper for us, right? So 10 times the amount of money is spent on pharmaceuticals to, keep profits in pharmaceutical pockets than it is on education. And right, I mean, education lobbying can be nefarious too. It can be like to keep textbook prices high and monopolies in power when it comes to textbooks or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, Open Secrets is good for that. Can I get another beer?
Yes.
All right. So somebody can go to Open Secrets and take a look. I think you can filter by industry, and I think pharmaceuticals is number one, and then I think it's oil.
I mean, so what are the other main lobbying groups? Like, I lack the imagination to think about this. There's, things about sex education or LGBTQ. There's groups for that.
Yeah.
Religious, guns, NRA used to be.
NRA, very, very big and very, very powerful still.
Yeah.
I mean, you have lobbyists for everything. Like in Massachusetts, we always had to think about how does this affect the lobster industry. I'm not joking. Like that is a serious consideration. Like how does this policy affect the lobster?
Josh went to sleep at night just like,
yeah.
Can't sleep. What's going to happen to the lobsters?
Hurt the and like fishermen. It's really just like the fishermen. So there's a fishing lobby because one of the big things we were trying to do is build like offshore wind farms, but you put those on an ocean and now they're in the middle of where people fish, and now people are very upset. You've maybe also done the environmental degradation of like changing how whales migrate or sharks. Or like these things are obviously very important, even though offshore wind for clean energy and renewables is also very important. Also, lobstermen get upset that they can't set traps in this part of the ocean anymore or something. So, like, all these things matter a lot, but everybody has a lobbyist, so.
Mildly related, did you see that story that they, like, suspended crab fishing in Alaska because there's a huge...
Yeah.
Well, I don't know any more details. If you know more than me.
Just the headline that, like
they don't have enough crabs.
Yeah, somebody took all the crabs. Or it's, like, maybe because of climate change that they're migrating to other waters, and so they're not in the same waters anymore, and they can't find them.
That's intense. Like, that's such a disruption to the cycle.
ACS spent $200,000 on lobbying in D.C. in 2019. That's not much.
I was going to say that's like 2 people.
Because, they've spent more than that on the 2 congressional fellows. When you think about all the stuff they did to, like, provide for us and train us and, like, pay us when we were there. Mm-hmm. That doesn't count as lobbying, but they're like putting 2 people with jobs on the Hill using their science background to shape science policy that's probably going to benefit ACS, but not as directly as an ACS lobbyist that is trying to do something for money for STEM education or money for, scientific nonprofits or something.
All right. Do you want to switch games or keep going?
Yeah, let's switch game because we can't do like battle mode here, right?
No, we can't.
Yeah. So we're good.
What do you want to do? Here's your list right here.
Oh, Donkey Kong Country.
Donkey Kong Country. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're taking a trip back in time at least a little bit to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
So what is this, 94 or something?
Oh, let me pop it up. That's what I use my Nightbot for. It's games and alcohol.
Actually got to let the music play out. Some of the best music, man.
And the Lion King.
Oh, well, that's
that
legit good music, but that's because it was from like a Disney movie.
Yeah. So this is 1994. It's
Nailed
not
it.
too old. It's pretty close. All right. So getting back to Dunestable Ramsey's question. Can you comment on lobbying situation on issue of science policy and the issues you are working on? Who is lobbying in this area and how much influence do they have? Like you engaged with lobbyists, presumably.
Yeah, for sure. Is this not hooked up? Maybe?
Is it not working? It should. Let's try it again.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, I think it makes you watch the...
Yeah, so like on some issues, I would reach out to... So lobbying can come in a lot of forms, right? There are nonprofits that have lobbying arms. So you can think of like the Sierra Club, an environmental group, right? That has a lobbying arm. Or you can think of a business, right? Or unions that have lobbying arms. And so if like, not to be confused with ACS, the American Chemical Society, there's ACC or AAC, American Chemicals Corporation or something. Anyway, they're the lobbying arm that represents like Dow and DuPont and all the big chemical companies. And that is a powerful lobbying arm for chemistry. ACS, right, they're nonpartisan in a lot of ways and not really trying to do certain things to benefit chemical businesses at the expense of environment or something, right? They stay out of that. They're pretty nonpartisan. But ACC, if that's what it is very much not nonpartisan. So sometimes you would reach out to them if you knew they had experts in the field, because these lobbying arms often are, smart people that have expertise in an area. So if I wanted to know something about an environmental impacts, I would probably contact an environmental group that has a lobbying arm, and maybe I'm talking directly with... Oh, I actually should have kept that.
I just want to point out the veteran shit Josh just pulled.
And then immediately dying.
Like you remembered that though. That's really impressed.
It came back to me.
I think
it's probably only this first one I'll remember, but
I think you have infinite lives. Check the cheats. Do you want them?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think I'm supposed to carry this. It's just some secret passageway.
Yep,
so like those is a two-way street. They definitely shape the policy because like you're working with them on stuff. Oh, I missed it. And then you just have to take meetings from constituents and from lobbying arms that you have relationships with. So Citizens Climate Lobby is a climate group that is in like every city basically has some CCL, Citizens Climate Lobby, and they advocate and have been advocating for a long time for a carbon tax, amongst other things. And there was a group from Massachusetts. Oh, right, I should probably do this so I don't die. The CCL, Citizens Climate Lobby from Massachusetts, would come and lobby a lot and push a carbon tax, and it just wasn't politically viable. So while I really respected them and like the work they were doing, like they could never tell me anything that would really change our minds about what would be doable in terms of enforcing a carbon tax. And part of that's because, the guy I worked for tried a carbon tax a decade ago and it got nowhere, and he didn't want to waste his time doing that again. That said, they do a lot of other stuff that we really value. So like, it's tricky. I could see how somebody from any of these sciencey lobbying firms could convince a lawyer, right, without a science background. But like being a scientist, that like is not going to fly with me. It just, our BS meters are very attuned as scientists. We just like naturally can tell if somebody's faking it or not. Where not always, lawyers could. So I don't think it works as well on me as other people. Then there's the outright lobbying, like on members of Congress themselves, where like, I'm going to donate to your campaign, and like then I expect something. That I think absolutely happens. It's out of the limelight, and one of the things I believe in heavily is like some campaign finance reform so we can tell who's donating to what and shaping what policy. But yeah, I think that happens like all the time. Senators and representatives are always worried about where their next, finances to fund their next campaign is going to come from. And, if you're going to come give me $10 million or something, and what do you want me to do? Well, nothing specifically, but, I'm very interested in less campaign or less, a lower tax rate for corporations in general or something. Okay. So, well, yeah, that's something I can do. I think we have a lot of corporations in my city and district I represent, so that aligns well with what I could sell, and I'm happy to do that. So I think that's kind of how it works. Not always more nefarious, but oh yeah, that does align with something that generally people in my districts would support, and I'm happy to do that. Because remember, these people are representatives and members of Congress in general are working on so many issues at the same time that they're not experts in any of them, but they're going to advocate for a policy that they know is going to be favorable for the constituents or somehow otherwise keep them in power. So yeah, I think lobbying absolutely works. Maybe not as well on scientists as other people on staff or members of Congress that just outright want the money, but it absolutely works. And in some respects, I found myself just wanting to learn more about a topic because a random meeting I had with a lobbyist, brought something to our attention that I was like, that's an issue I'd never heard about. The science behind it sounds legit, and it does seem to fit within what the senator broadly is interested in.
I mean, so I appreciate the perspective you bring to this, because a lot of people hear lobbying and it's just inherently a negative thing, and that's not necessarily true. And one of the really good examples from Jenny Root when she was on, she's in education, particularly special education, the Americans with Disabilities Act. I mean, it was brought about by a lobbying group, right? Because most of the senators they're not disabled. I mean, the one that led the effort had a disabled relative of some kind, but it was that group had to bring that to people's attention, and you can only do that with a certain amount of money. But I mean, did you have this lens before you were there, or is this something you shaped?
No, not at all. Now my biggest advice to people is if you somehow want to make a difference on some policy and something you're passionate about, groups always way more powerful than a person. So yes, you can write your congressman, you can call their office. That most of the time does next to nothing. But groups are very powerful. And it doesn't even have to be some nationally recognized group. It can be in your community. You have now a group of 10 people that all care about a thing. And all 10 of you are willing to get on a call with a staff member from that Senate office or that congressman's office. That is 100 times more powerful than 100 individuals calling the phone and saying something. It just always is, because that collective action is the type of thing that will get the attention of the media. And the media is so dang powerful that the member of Congress knows they need to be on the right side of that media coverage. So they're going to listen to groups that they know could bring the attention from the media on some issue.
So a fun dovetail prediction from this exchange. This is Josh's personal experience the last year on Capitol Hill. Number of emails per day to a Senate science advisor. So Josh showed up to work every day and he had to deal with a bunch of emails. The question is, how many emails? Greater than 100 or less than 100? What is your guys' guess? And this one you can probably Google all you want. You're probably not going to find an answer easily, at least not one directly related to science policy advisors.
This is
but obviously there's a lot of people, groups, individuals. You mentioned some people email personally. Man, there was probably somebody that emailed twice a day or something, right? Do you have a
luckily you can
filter?
Well, you
junk
can
mail.
You can filter, but generally those get routed to other people in the office, unless you have some sort of relationship with them.
I see.
So no, because generally people that are going to email somebody like me that's working sort of behind the scenes and isn't part of the press team or something, we either already have a relationship or they know to email once. If they don't hear anything, to email a second time and follow up. And then if they don't hear anything, they stop emailing and they're going to try somebody else.
But these are specific to you. These aren't general emails partitioned amongst your staff. This was...
Yes, although some of these emails are probably like newsletters and alerts I signed up for.
I see. I see.
So like these, we could reframe the question, I guess, to be just like random people emailing.
Yeah.
But no, this is just like, what is my inbox at the start of the day?
Man, that's pretty intense. So what percentage, I guess we should wait till this question is done before we bias the outcomes.
Oh, done stable. Yeah, these were like this when this came out. This was definitely my favorite game.
Yeah, this was huge. It's still huge in the speedrunning community, actually. Veteran shortcut again. It's in your blood, man.
I know.
It's just question related to this. Your kids are going to be of video gaming age. What's their first game going to be? One of yours or one of their?
Well, it's definitely not going to be one of theirs. You have to set that tone very early.
Yes. Put your foot down.
I mean, we're not starting with Minecraft here.
Yeah.
It's okay.
We can't have an easy mode. You need to suffer. Lion King? Is that the...
Yeah, Lion King's good.
Oh, man.
Oh, I blew it. You have to start in the middle. I'm such an idiot.
Is that it? That's a fixed pattern?
No, but if you start in the middle, it comes down in the middle and you can go again.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That makes sense.
I did forget.
All right, Josh, everyone said greater than 100. What's the actual answer?
Yeah, it's about 300.
300 emails. Yeah. So
I don't know how many you're getting a day with 350 students. It's probably not that high, but it's probably not that much different.
So I used to get a lot of emails. I got something like 1,000 my first semester teaching a 350 person class.
A day?
No, 1,000 throughout the semester.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot. And then on syllabus day, I did this routine now where I say, if you guys have any questions, here's the trail of thought. Number 1, check the syllabus. Number 2, Google. Number 3, email a TA. Number 4, show up to office hours. Number 5, email me.
Yeah.
And it mitigated a lot of those issues because a lot of the emails were like, when's our test and stuff like that. Like, I just don't want to spend the time answering that. But anyway, so your answer is 300 emails.
300 emails a day.
How many of those do you have to reply to?
Have to? Very few. But
how many do you reply to, or did you?
I would say probably 75, so something around a quarter are like either I have to reply to them or it's like there's some sort of action item associated with like I have to go to my supervisor and say, what are we going to do about this, or something like that. So I would say 75 of them I have to write something or do something about.
And so going back to teaching, that was a relief on your
oh yeah, for
emailing.
sure. Yeah, for sure. Although, like I said, the students are pretty needy, so it's more emails than I remember from teaching. But that's just, it's becoming more and more of a digital age as we progress. They're just going to be more and more, or maybe not emails, just, I don't know, they'll find another way, I guess.
Well, the thing I noticed, not to sound like the old guy, but the style of email has changed. Like, we would typically write a letter where they're writing texts. So it'll be like a string of 3 emails that should be 1 email. Right. Where they're like, here's my train of thought. Yeah. And I hit enter after every single, it's like it's a text message and it accumulates very quickly.
Winky face.
Yeah, exactly. Thumbs up here and there. And the last 3 weeks have been brutal, though. I'm organizing a conference, so I have to deal with all that. But it's like 50 a day, something like that right now. Which is...
That's a lot.
It's a lot of time. I mean, you do the math for 1 minute per email.
Yep.
It adds up very, very quickly. But so how is your time partition then? I mean...
Like, you mean day to day? What was I doing?
If you had an 8-hour day, you spend 3 hours on the computer, 2 hours talking to people. Like, how did that... I guess
well, let me say it this way. Like, well, for sure, but I'll say it this way: that like an average day, you get in the office at maybe 9 a.m. or so. The first hour and a half is just like reading stuff. Well, before that, you're watching the news in the morning. You're listening to a podcast on the way to work. You are reading the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Boston Globe, because I worked for a Massachusetts senator, every morning to see like what's happening there. You're on, 10 or so newsletters, some broad what's happening in Congress, some like in your exact portfolio. So what is happening in the world of climate change legislation, or like what's going on. So you're reading a lot of that in the morning. Then you're catching up on your emails. Oh, this is the best level singular level, I would argue, in like any game ever. It's some of my favorite. Frustrating, but I just love it.
You're gonna first try it here.
No, definitely not. I remember this like one jump that you have to wait till the last second to nail, and it's like coming downhill like that.
You got this. I'm a believer.
Yeah. This one. Oh no, that's just to get that one. Ooh. Oh, great! I get to bypass some of it. Yeah, so I would say like the first hour and a half, you're like reading emails, catching up, responding to some emails, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then around 10:30 or so, you might start working on a memo that you have to write for the senator by the end of the day or something. Or you go back to working on writing a bill that you were writing. Or you are like organizing a hearing that's going to happen the next day for the senator and have to write like his opening statement speech or something. So there's some project then you transition to. Then 11 or so, you have like a team meeting where you're all talking about what you're working for on the day. And that's when you have like your advisor around that can help advise you on how to make certain progress on certain things. Then like over lunch, you're seeing if there's any afternoon breaking news and going back to working on whatever you have to work for the day. And then invariably at some point, the senator comes in the office and says, oh my God, something happened. We need to learn about what we need to say on this topic. And it's, something totally obscure you know nothing about. And so you have to like research it and in the next 2 hours write a tweet and then also like maybe write a speech for him. So it's just like really, really depends. And then by, end of day, you might have another meeting with the congressman. You're taking throughout the day no meeting ever needs to be more than 30 minutes. I'm convinced of that now. So you're taking random 30-minute meetings throughout the day from constituents, from lobbying groups, etc. And that's kind of what it is day after day after day.
I mean, so all due respect, you have zero experience writing speeches.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're writing speeches. How does that work?
I think it's like anything else where you find other examples that have been done and you can work off that. So that's helpful. And then these are the most well-oiled machines. Where you come from academia, where like not all of our meetings are super productive, where research groups, where research groups aren't always like the most efficient machines. Like we don't come from that world, but these government offices are like super well-oiled machines in terms of what they do and when they do it. And so there's always a structure to everything. So you take a first draft and it could be terrible, probably is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So you can't press any direction, otherwise he'll follow that direction and jump out. So yeah, you take a first crack at it based on something else you read. It's going to be terrible. And then you pass it up to your supervisor, who will then actually turn it into something good. And then it'll go from there to...
So you're not final drafting anything.
Definitely not initially.
Not speeches, yeah.
And definitely not speeches. That'll always go through one, maybe two people.
Yeah. I mean, so does the staff have a professional... Obviously, they probably do. Professional writer of some kind?
I would say no.
Really?
Yeah, I would say no. I mean, the White House and things like that definitely do.
Huh.
Oh, I forgot about that. But no. There's definitely some person that probably has come into being known as like the best wordsmith and crafter of policy.
Yeah.
And usually that's somebody that's going to live, at like on the press side of things. There's, press shops. I think ours had like 4 people between like the internet side before like actually talking with reporters side. So like 4 people were part of the press shop. So anything you write at some point is also going to go through them for their eyes. And there's usually one person on that team that doesn't specialize in speech writing, but is kind of known as the speech person.
I mean, let's follow up on this. Was there like a learning moment for you where you just said some stupid shit and they're like, this is not going to fly? Or was there a... No,
because they were always way too nice to me about that. So I know they definitely thought that, but no. And It's because, again, like, they know that doesn't really serve them or you.
I suppose.
So they know that you're learning. So, like,
well, they're more diplomatic than we are.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah. That's intense. And so did you bring any skills back that you think will serve you well?
I've thought a lot about, like, implementing some policies on my research group, although that's really tiny and non-existent now since I was on sabbatical, so we will see. In terms of managing my time, absolutely. God, I can never get over that. Especially when it comes to meetings. Like, if I'm in charge of a meeting, it, like, maybe is gonna last an hour if it's like something that really needs all that time, but mostly no. Like, if I'm gonna take a Zoom call, that's gonna be 30 minutes max, and, like, that's just how it's gonna be. Nothing needs to be longer than that.
As you go to faculty meeting every month.
Yeah, I know.
Bad. It divulges. All right. Unstable Ramsey, just remember to end every speech with "God bless America."
No, God bless our troops.
Oh, you already failed.
Yeah. That's okay. It's a good try.
Yeah.
Unstable, but usually we want to go with something more about the troops. That's what they would say to me. They'd be like, usually, the senator prefers this.
Do you feel the metaphoric pat on your stupid head?
There. You're new at this.
Yeah. Like, oh man, look at the scientists try to be all political and. All right. Fullerene 60C, science question. How does Dr. Melko feel about diamond rain? Was that one of the moons of...
Is that like when the pressure's so high?
Yeah, there's like a planet that has diamond rain.
I thought that was just theoretical. Or, like, obviously we've never been observed, but, like, there's other planets far away that we think the pressure might be so high it can sustain that. I mean, look, if the pressure and temperature is such on the phase diagram that diamond can be allowed, diamond will happen.
According to Euronews, the diamond rain phenomena is believed by some scientists to take place on Uranus or Neptune in our solar system. 8,000 kilometers below the surface of our ice giant neighbors.
Wait, 8,000
kilometers below the surface of our ice giant neighbors. Mixture
because they're not rocky. Right. Because they're not rocky planets. They're gaseous planets. Yeah. So yeah, okay.
That's a good point. It's not a sea level on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if it's rain, but yes, if the pressure, I should pay attention. If the pressure is high enough and the temperature is right for diamond to exist, diamond shall exist. What do you think, Fullerene?
That's a good question. We should obviously mine those planets. Let's get a lobbying group together. Shoot something.
Mining is super contentious because, like, everybody wants to do all this stuff, but it takes materials to do the stuff. And where do you get the materials from? And are you stealing it away from people that have the right to that? So it's very tricky.
I like them, but clearly they are synthetic diamonds. I mean, all diamonds are synthetic diamonds in the literal sense. But would you rather crush some algae over 50 million years, 500 million years? And this level is brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever made it this far in this game.
What the really, like, in my brain, I have this trauma that at the very end, right before you go through, like, the tunnel at the end, there's one of those guys that comes, and it gets me every time. Just like that one gets me every time.
These are unforgiving jumps, too.
I know.
And the worst part, those of you guys aren't familiar with these early games, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, you don't know where the hitbox is, like where the edge is. Because what they draw as an edge is not the same as a real edge. You have to make decisions accordingly. Huge pain in the ass. I mean, so you read a lot of news articles. Obviously, you listed the, Boston Globe and everything you had to follow. Did any of that stick with you? Do you have your go-tos now?
Yeah, I definitely, like, when I was there, signed up for, like, a New York Times membership, and I kept that a little while. And I do love getting, like, the paper, like the Sunday physical paper New York Times, but it just got so expensive. Honestly, I couldn't justify keeping it.
Yeah.
But I really loved that. I just thought it had decent news. It's clearly partisan, but, like, it's still well done. And now I just subscribe to my local newspaper that I think is really important to, like, fund local, actual, real journalism because it's pretty rare now.
And you learn about local events, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like,
Getting old, this is very important to know what's happening. What are the top 5 things to do in Tallahassee this weekend for kids?
I need the gardening shows.
Right here. There it is. Oh,
I knew it was coming too. I called it.
The gardening shows, right? Yeah, no, there's a home
like
and
the
garden.
tour of homes and
yes, right.
Yeah, we're getting old, man.
I know.
Here we are playing video games, but they're old video games.
Yes. Yeah, it was like I've kept some of that. I still like read morning newsletters every morning on what's moving in terms of certain like climate policy and stuff like that, or energy policy, because I'm generally like all in and super fascinated with it.
I mean, would you ever go back?
Yeah, I mean, I want to spend a few years and see if I can like do something locally, but depending on how that pans out, we'll see.
That's interesting. Run for office. You've thought about it?
I thought about it, but it's not the right time with 2 kids under 2.
No, absolutely.
Especially for the types of offices that are available and how politically difficult, like, you bring attention to your family, and some of it not good attention at all, and outright crazy people out there. So yeah, it's a calculated decision to like, let's put the brakes on that for a couple years at least until kids are in school or something. And
I mean, it's intriguing, but it's one of those things like I'm not savvy enough. I'm a blunt force object, but I'm also, honest in the things I say. And it's one of those like Trump got away with doing that for different reasons, right? But can a well-educated, science-driven, evidence-based practice person just speak the truth and potentially get a following? I don't know.
I would say you will learn how to improve by making some of those mistakes much faster than people like Trump would never learn or want to learn. So like you're very good at just things that take a learning curve, and it's like any other skill that takes a learning curve, and you would adjust to it just fine. Yeah. So I do have that confidence now. Okay, here it is. Jump! Yes.
GG's, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my hands are sweaty.
So you gained a significant tool set towards that goal, if you so choose.
Yeah, I mean, and I've thought about running for something. Like I said, I think I want to do something very, very local and lower key. So there's like very contentious positions like supervisors of elections, and school board are like very, very contentious at local levels now, and city council and that sort of stuff.
Man, school board thing is slightly terrifying.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Like it's stuff like that. Like the shame is like that's what.
It makes a difference.
It's what makes a difference, but it's also what the other sides want. They want to discourage actual decent people from going after this because they know there's so many crazy people, making it so political and crazy that they're going to discourage good people from going after those. And that's going to make it easier for the crazy people to keep or get those jobs. So in some sense, that's really sad.
I mean, but it's one of those things, and I emphasize this to my client. I rant every other day about people voting. I'm like, Gen Z, you guys have to make a difference. And I have 350 students. It's not a trivial amount, but it's also, a small subset. But one of my big rants is like, people only show up for the president, but the president doesn't do shit. Right? Like any major change you imagine over the last 100 years of U.S. politics started at a local town and then spread to a county and then spread to a state, and eventually the federal government couldn't ignore it anymore. But it's like those are the elections that have the lowest turnout by far.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's not as sexy, but I do think, and I think you're encouraged too, that like the level that this next generation is actually voting, period, is a good sign.
True. Just showing up, like that's
and I mean, though it's true that more people vote in presidential elections, and certainly that generation was no mistake. Like a lot of what President Biden is doing is based on promises he made to those groups, and that went a long way to getting him elected. He knows he got elected in part because of young people, right, that voted for him or voted against Trump. That happened. So, a lot of his policy positions are about making sure he's delivering on the things that young people wanted. For example, address climate change. Now we're back in the Paris Agreement. He's done that to some degree, pushing through and pushing Congress to pass the Inflation Reduction Act and signing that, and the infrastructure bill and all these things that should make it a student loan forgiveness. Like these were all things that are super important to young people that Biden is getting done. I'm not sure he's totally getting credit for it, or that they're always the most progressive things that young people want. Or the most progressive versions of it, but nonetheless, it's something getting done.
Progress.
Even if it's incremental.
little battles along the way.
Right.
Speaking of which, we have a prediction related to the sentence you just uttered.
Interesting.
Well, you listed several bills that came out recently, and this is kind of a fun one directly related to science. Basically, embedded in two major bills, or embedded in one of two major bills, was $369 billion for climate change. The question is, was it in the Build Back Better bill or in the Inflation Reduction Act bill? Again, Ask a Scientist Gaming, you are on our honor policy. Don't look up the answer, just guess based on your own knowledge or what you've read, or if you keep track of several journals, you might already know this information, or what you've gleaned from what Josh has said. Bet your standard internet units. Which bill has the $369 billion for climate change? The Build Back Better or the Inflation Reduction Act? If you're not familiar, click that predict button. Bet as much money as you want or as much standard internet units as you want on this question. Which is a fun one. Oof. This is something I did not know the answer to.
It's so weird because he lives like so much in this world all year like I did, and I think back to before where I knew nothing about this, and it's not that I didn't care, it's just like wasn't on my radar. We're all busy, we're all doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so like now I start using the vernacular that I'm just like, oh yeah, everybody knows about this stuff, and you know, nobody in academia is thinking about or worried about this stuff. And they should be, but you know, at the same time, like not everybody in Congress understands like quantum mechanics, clearly. Right?
Well, it's one of those things, and like even we're in a relatively privileged place, but like it's time is so precious, and like you really have to do a cost benefit of what you want to spend your time on.
Yeah.
And is it keeping track of bills? Probably not.
Right.
Is it playing Donkey Kong on a Thursday night? Maybe. Like, priorities, cost benefit analysis.
Yeah. Oh, this I'm very noisy with this controller. I hope the mic is picking up all of that.
That's a good question. It was original NES controller. So I tried to do like the USB Super Nintendo. I think you have one. You picked one up when you were on the stream, but
yep.
They just don't. They're not good. Like the original ones from 30 years ago are still better than these USB ones.
Gorman Lab, I ran about voting because I said I don't vote as I'm uninformed. I very much deserve that rant. Huggy Beer, what's up? Cheers.
Huggy Beer, welcome to the stream. Welcome back to the stream. It's good to see you. Government academia question. Did you have any way to affect or use the major town halls like NSAC, NSAC?
Oh, nice, Huggy. I have no idea what NSAC is, so I guess not. I mean, you know, this goes back to what members of Congress are really all about, and that is like, oh, I did it again. You have to go in the middle. And that is like always worried about the next election, right? So town halls are very important in that respect because they need to appear in front of their constituents. They need to look good in front of their constituents. They need to make sure that their constituents think their representative is representing them. So, yeah, I mean, I know town halls are super important. I also know that, like, that's something that's done back at the local level, and I was very much living in the federal world. Where'd that tire go, yo? And so there's a big division in terms of working in D.C. And working back on the state side. So a representative or a senator will have two offices, one in D.C. and one back in the state or in the district. And the jobs of those people are to engage at the district level, where the job in D.C. is to shape federal policy that can deliver for the constituents back home. So I believe the town halls you're probably talking about are more of like, how do I engage and listen and get some communication with my constituents? And that's usually handled by the state offices. And so I didn't have a ton of experience with that. Big national lab meeting for physics, long range plan for nuclear structure reactions and astrophysics. Oh, okay. So I did not. That is part of the jurisdiction of one of the committees of the senator that I was on, but just not something oh no, get up there. Oh no, had the chance to work on.
All right. apologize for missing that answer, but which bill has a $369 billion for climate change? Is it Build Back Better or Inflation Reduction Act? Josh, what's the answer?
The Inflation Reduction Act.
Which 96% of the dollars said that was the answer.
Yeah.
So they were very confident in that.
Yeah, I've been talking about it a couple times here, so
I mean,
makes sense.
I mean, it's one of those, just how deceptive, I don't know if deceptive is the way to describe it, but the naming does not capture. I mean, how do you feel about the like embedding secondary things in bills? Has your perspective changed?
It's a necessary evil. Like, I don't love it, but I mean, the Inflation Reduction Act is named because the time we were getting consensus about what was in the bill and what can pass, inflation was the major thing on everybody's mind. And one senator from West Virginia really wanted to advocate for the use of, or for making sure that this bill did not add to inflation. I think that's a fine idea and a good idea. It had to become the name of the bill, I guess, for some reason, because then you could sell it to the general public that, hey, this isn't going to... Wow.
Hitboxes, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I was saying. Boundaries don't make sense in these games.
I thought I would just like hop on them, but I guess I gotta actually physically jump. So Inflation Reduction Act is named that just because the time it came into being was when inflation concerns were very high, rightfully so. And so we just took all this climate policy and called it the Inflation Reduction Act. And we did make sure that like the policy did not spend money without raising money, so it would not lead to inflation. But that said, like, it's still just a marketing ploy to call it that. And I don't love the name, but it is what it is. The other thing about bills and like having everything shoved into one bill, not ideal, but that's like the political reality of where we're at, unfortunately. Like, you know, the political will has to be there to vote on something, to do something, and that is so rarely the case, especially these days in such a partisan environment, that, you know, you have to strike when the iron's hot, and the iron is almost always ice cold. So, you know, you have to do what you can when you can, and so you end up putting everything into a singular bill because that's what's moving and that's what has the votes. It's not the best way to run a democracy, but, you know, like Churchill said, this is the best version of democracy, or this is the worst version of democracy ever, except for all the other ones that failed. So basically, like, this is what we have, so here we are. It's the best form, and we got to do the best we can with what we got.
Counterpoint to that, there are many democracies now. Is ours the best form?
No. I would argue.
I'm sure that was true 200 years ago, but Europe has since, I'd argue, surpassed us in freedom and democracy and representative, and so it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Huggy Beer, besides funding, what can the government do to help science cause?
Great question. I mean, I think one of the things that came to mind, and when I was like going into this, one of the driving forces for getting involved is just like the lack of guardrails around like what people can say, at least with regard to like what is scientific information or conveyed as scientific information. And like so often, I mean, you're seeing this play out as we speak with Twitter and Elon Musk, but like what counts as like free speech is always like the reason to allow any speech. And, you know, there needs to be guardrails around what can be said on various platforms that are shaping the way that, you know, children grow up and the views they espouse and what is like allowed and accepted and not allowed and accepted. So, you know, I think there need to be better guardrails around social media in general about what can be said, can be shared, you know, what other countries. I did the same thing. Now I know what I need to do. I thought I could just power over it, but I have to land on that bird, I guess.
So are you holding B? How does that jump higher? Or is it just aiming
forward?
In a different direction? Okay.
Yeah, so if you just hold forward, you go over the bird, and I guess you can't make it to the jump.
If you let go forward, it does the hops. Okay. Yeah.
So I think there does need to be a lot better policy. It's not just about money for like more graduate fellowships and more funding for national labs and stuff, although that's important and we need it. Like at the same time, we do need better policies that control what really is like allowed to be conveyed as science, because like science's real job is about, you know, being an institution that helps inform. right? And as well as improve our lives through shaping policy that is scientifically sound. But like today, it's not always viewed that way. Did I get that one? Oh no, I guess not.
Oh.
How many tries do I get here? Infinite?
Nice.
So I think we can do things in terms of policy to like better shape, better empower science, period. And that sometimes means making things that aren't actually scientific, not allow them to be conveyed as science, whether that's on social media or by companies. So I think that's one thing. The other, that time I did it. I landed on both birds, but then forgot to press forward and just died. The other thing I think is just in terms of training, that does take money, but like just figuring out new ways to train the next generation of scientists and inspire, and inspire enthusiasm for science, period. Like, we had like the space race and we got so much like youth exuberance in science that led us to like, there we go, have all this cultivated scientific prowess and people interested in science. But, I don't know what we have, if anything, now.
The moon race. China's talking about going to the moon, right? There's a lot of excitement about, occupying space dominance. I don't know. They worked with Russia. Why not with China, right? Fullerene 60C. A big NSAC or NSAC conclusion was asking for radioisotope generation for medical use, as free market doesn't have access to these reactors. Oh, that's interesting. Counterpoint, the free market could build their own reactors if they want to invest tens of billions.
That's the way Adam Smith would have wanted it.
Exactly. I mean, but it is one of those things that these companies want to exploit, this majorly tax-funded endeavor to build these like particle accelerators and things. They don't want to necessarily pay the taxes to help with that. I don't know. Maybe that's the cynic in me.
No, I mean, I think it's like, this is something we ran into with like Republicans all the time, is like they always want total competition and open like market everything until they don't, until it's about something that like isn't for them. Then they're like, well, no, that's the exception. And so like one of the things is like utilities that I worked a lot on is like shaping utility policy. Like we just like pay our utility bill, but it's such crap. These utilities are like all huge monopolies that just like charge us way higher rates than they should, because there is a structure. They first were made in the early 1900s, like based on, we need to build an electrical grid. So yeah, we're just going to let you be a monopoly and say, you can have this monopoly power. Oof.
Just a tease. That's for the audience, ladies and gentlemen.
That's just for you. We're going to let you be a monopoly because we don't want to build 10 different power lines. We only want one power line, or we only want one generation station. So like monopolies made sense in the early 1900s. They don't anymore. So like we have so many utility monopolies now, and we really shouldn't. We should favor open competition. And so you tell this to Republicans and they're like, no, utilities are different. We can't possibly have an open competitive market for energy. Like that'll never work. So it's just like they always want the free market until they don't.
And so kind of changing directions a little bit, I'm curious, like, your experience on Capitol Hill, you learned a lot about the process, the people, all those things. Was there anything that stood out to you that changes how you might vote or how you might look at a candidate? Is there something we should know that we don't instinctively think of? Or is it just as obvious as we tend to think it is?
I mean, I now go to Open Secrets and see who is donating to their campaigns. So that's one thing. And that's not like a deciding factor necessarily, but that's like one thing. The other thing I'll do, and I'll show this in my talk tomorrow, is like I'll show their like leadership score, which is about like how actual productive they are in Congress. So if it's somebody that like is going for Congress, I will look up like the analytics of how productive they are. Are they just doing things that are about messaging, or are they actually like filing bills and trying to pass build consensus? So like there are metrics you can look up for that. But if it's like your local school board race, they're probably not going to be on open secrets, and they're probably not going to like have that sort of data. So I would like call their office and try to talk to a staff member. If I was like super interested, try to talk to a staff member and see if they're willing to engage. That would be something to do. But otherwise, if you have a local newspaper that's actually good, read who they're recommending and go with that if you don't know any better or don't have the time to like investigate. Find some like unique journalism who's going to like actually tell you what the policies of the people are, or maybe they didn't return requests for that newspaper or whatever. So sometimes it depends on how broad the race is, right? And like how much information there's going to be.
So Fullerene 60C Senate Stock Watcher. Is that one you've kept track of?
Never heard of that, but I'm guessing it's about what stocks they buy and invest in.
That is intriguing. Oh man, that is a whole nother can of worms.
I feel like that, yeah, I mean, that you have to be careful with. There's definitely, I see. There's definitely some people that are going to use that nefariously, but like, yeah, I don't know how much I want to get into this, but like,
don't worry.
I wonder like how many senators or congressmen like have somebody else managing their financials. Like now that I know how busy these people are, I can't imagine they're like, did it again. Maybe they're calling their broker and being like, you have to buy this stock and sell this other stock. But I just can't imagine they're like actually have the time to do that based on information, based on the amount of information they get every day and the things they're doing. I just can't imagine they really have time to care about and do that.
But they did vote against restricting Congress from it. So
yeah, I don't always understand it, but I think like I would use that with a grain of salt. Like sometimes I think, yeah, that could be useful, but most of the time, no.
All right, data basics. How do you think you've moved on the political spectrum since joining Congress? I mean, while you were there, DeSantis signed a bill that we have to like declare our political affiliations, and obviously we're all liberal hippie leftists trying to like make our kids transgender or something.
That's right.
Did that change at all during your experience? Or did it solidify your position?
Yeah, I think it made me even more progressive than I was.
Wow.
More left than I was. Because I see... Oh, shoot. I didn't think about that. Because, like... I don't know. I just understand it more now and how the game is played, that, like... I think it's absolutely essential that we talk about what we would like to see, even if it's not at the moment always politically viable. And we strive for what we want the world to actually be.
All right, we just crossed 10 o'clock. Anyone just joining us, Ask a Scientist Gaming Mediocre Gameplay Expert Science. Guest today is Dr. Josh Melko, who's an expert in atmospheric chemistry and doing mass spec to understand chemimal reactions. Also a professor at University of North Florida. Primarily mentors and teaches undergrad students, several different classes, Gen Chem, P-Chem, but also he spent a year as a science policy advisor in Washington, D.C., so has a lot of insights into that as well. So if you guys have any questions, throw them in chat. We are happy to answer those. You want to change games or keep going?
I want to beat this level and then we'll probably change.
All right, sounds good.
That could be hours though.
That's fine.
Oh no.
We have 53 minutes till the end, but also we got to play NARC. So we got that going for us. I'm guessing, mark my prediction right now, I'm going to say you're a 22-minute NARC time. So we'll start that at exactly
God.
what? Yeah. 10:38 we'll start NARC.
So I have to beat the whole game. That's like the thing.
Yep.
Wow.
It's not bad except for the last boss, but you'll get to see that as it goes. Huggy Bear redeemed request a factoid, spending those standard internet units wisely.
Right, factoid. I forgot about that. Let's see. Do you guys know about the secret subway system under Capitol Hill?
I do not, so I'm intrigued.
Ooh. It's not so secret, but basically, so, okay. there is, at least when I went to work in Congress, I thought, okay, like I'm going to be working in the Capitol, that building that I see on TV all the time. That's like not the case at all. There are buildings for the senators where their offices are, and there are, oh, I just walked right into that one. There are House buildings where the representatives work. So like there are separate buildings off the Capitol and like a decent walk away where you're actually working, where the senators are actually working, where their staffs are actually working. But in the bottom of those buildings, there are fancy subway systems, and the senators ride the same one as you. They get their own elevators.
Willy Wonka elevators.
Yeah,
we established
that's right.
this earlier.
Yeah. They get their own elevators, but they have to slum it with the likes of staff when it comes to riding over towards the Capitol. So there's these like 2 rail cars, one that goes between certain Senate buildings and the Capitol.
Ooh,
and
veteran move. Well done.
You go down to the, oh yeah, that wasn't, made that mistake like 5 times on this level. So you go down to the basement of the building you're working with, and there's just like a guy there that's checking IDs. That's all he does, because you're not allowed to get on the subway system unless like you're a staff member and you have clearance to go over to the Capitol. And you just get on this tiny cart. It looks like, one of them looks like, you know, at Disney, one of these enclosed sort of old people movers that's like 3 cars and holds like 12 people total, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the other one is like this really cool open air cart. And so I don't know why they're not the same, but anyways, you can ride them over to the Capitol, and the senator takes them to like go vote. You take them to like accompany the senator to go to special meetings over there or something. Oh, I forgot I have to watch this. There we go. So that's really cool. I guess, I don't know if that's really a factoid, but it was one of the cooler, like, felt really neat to be able to ride this like underground secret system. I mean, there's also these other actual
Oh, the bird. Game over.
All right, that's it.
Wow.
There's probably other things that are...
You ran out of infinite life.
I think so. There's probably like actual tunnels, but that was the tunnel that I got to see.
All right, which game do you want to transition to?
I mean, we could do the... Oh, NARC, we still have a little bit of time on. Let's try Lion King, yeah.
Man, those of you not familiar, this is one of the most brutal, but also listen to
that is the other...
soundtrack.
Yeah. Love this song.
16-bit audio. Nailing it.
Huggy Beard, it starts. This is the other factoid I was going to tell, so you get 2 for the price of 1. I was going to talk about the number of staff. I went in thinking there'd be like 5 people working for a senator. I was way off. The Senate offices, because their states are different, nice data basics, the size of the money that they get to hire staff differs. Because California has a lot more people than Wyoming, California senators get a lot more money to hire staff than Wyoming senators. Okay, so their office size varies a lot. For Massachusetts, which, I mean, I guess one of you can look up for me, but I think is probably like maybe, I don't know, 15th most populous state, something like that. And I don't know, somewhere in there.
Seems reasonable.
Is a decently sized office, nowhere near like, what happened there? Where'd I go? Nowhere near like the biggest, but is a decent size. The senator's office had like, I would say 40 people working for it.
Oh, boom bug.
Did
Also, I
actually hurt me?
don't think I enabled cheats yet. Do you want them on?
For sure.
All right.
By cheats, you mean like infinite loves.
and infinite health.
Oh yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. We want you to get the stampede.
Cool. So the Massachusetts senator I worked for had like, 40 people working for them. I would say like 20 of them are doing just like policy, writing bills and things like that. Then you have like 5 people that are working in the press, right, to craft tweets and to decide how you're going to respond to interview requests and, help draft speeches and things like that. Then there's like another 5 that are just like office managers and things like that and scheduling. Right. Oh my
Wait,
god.
did I not turn on? Give me a second before you die. I didn't save it. All right.
So Senate offices all differ. House offices are all the same because every House office, every district is 180,000 people or something. So they're all going to be exactly the same.
Everything the light
Thank you, Huggy Beer.
is our kingdom.
All right. Wolverine 60C, a comment more than a question. I think I saw a picture and Melko was the tallest in the staffer picture. Is that true?
I think so.
How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4". I've had 2 guests in a row taller than me, and that's statistically like less than 3% chance or something, because I'm 6'2". Thank you, Wolverine 60C. All right, another question from Yuri Helsing. Welcome to the stream.
Yuri, what's up, man?
As most things boil down to money matters, I have to ask, is the current economy and monetary system is the current economy and monetary system, is it, or is it becoming an existential threat? Is there a better economic system?
I mean, I would like to think so, yes, right? And I mean, there are certain, like, capitalism does not work for everybody, clearly. So, yeah, I think from a strictly, like, theoretical perspective, absolutely there are better systems. From a practical point of view, I'm not in favor of, like, blowing up the current system and trying to replace it immediately. I think that is going to take a while. And we have to, like, unfortunately work in sort of, like, incremental changes.
Oh, God, do you remember these patterns? Because you have to, like, yell at them and they switch direction or something.
Right. I forgot you can roar, right?
Yep, that's one of the... There you go.
Oh, my God. So I have to roar at that one right there. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Nice. Oh, and then this game is amazing. I mean, it had
It
a lot of
really is.
different, like, mechanisms of gameplay. It did
Don't
them
I
all
have-
really well.
Oh, I see.
It's
Yeah,
easier
right,
to
the
imagine
basics.
the end of the world than the end of capitalism.
I mean, you don't have to, like, really, like, sell me on this. I'm not a huge fan of of capitalism. And, like, in different parts of the world, they have different systems. I mean, it's kind of like politics in general, where, like, your ability to make a change depends on your ability to be in power or stay in power, and that's the reality of it. So if you want to change the capitalistic structure of our society in the United States, we are the biggest player in the world. So, like, we have to operate on that stage for now, and we have to maintain some semblance of that if we want to be influential of changing the world for the better. Although we do a lot of things around the world that are not for the better, I would argue. But, like, you have to do, like, small incremental change. That's just the way the system currently functions. I'm not in favor of, like, blowing up that system tomorrow. In favor of something else. I think that will hurt more people than it'll help, unfortunately.
All right, lighter note, Fullerene 60C, have you had a chance to see the 45 Tesla, or is it 35 Tesla, the MagLab?
No.
So I guess we haven't talked. Have you been to Tallahassee? I mean, you've been through Tallahassee.
I
Have
gave
you
a
ever
talk.
visited?
Yeah, I gave a talk at FAMU, but not at FSU. So I want to think when I was looking at schools, I might have. God dang it.
No, that's fun. So you'll be visiting our chemistry department, our new building for the first time.
Oh, for sure.
By new, it's 2008 new, but yeah, Fullerene had a comment you should take a photo with the C60. There's some artwork dedicated to Harry Croto, which I'll show you.
Nice.
I'll give you the
Oh, I
tour
can't stay on
tomorrow.
him.
So we have a
Glad I have infinite lives here. Jesus.
yeah. So those of you not familiar, we regularly invite external speakers to come in and give talks at FSU or any university for that matter. And it typically involves showing up in the morning, meeting with faculty, going to lunch with students, meeting with more faculty, and eventually giving a talk, which is what Josh is going to end up doing tomorrow. It should be pretty fun.
Dang it,
We'll see.
I cannot
The
make
last
that
time
jump.
I had to meet with our faculty was during the interview process. So
Oh, I'm sure they're fine.
yeah, that'll be good.
Can you run in this game? I guess not. There's no like speed. It's
I actually
just
learned
jump.
a third of our department is younger than me now. Yeah, exactly. A third, like I'm pseudo senior member now, which is kind of crazy.
That's what I pegged you for. That old guy that doesn't
Exactly.
want to change textbooks.
Do you remember the prediction question? The what was it? The odds were crazy. It was asking which one of us was older. I don't remember what. You remember that?
I do.
I'll have to go look back at the video. All right. Fullerene 60C, I'm looking forward to the in real life talk after watching Melko stream during COVID for Gen Chem. Well, that's fun. You get to see the live action Melko. Pressure's on now.
Yeah,
You got at least one fan.
it's a record. It's more than I'll get in my end of year reviews from students.
You have 2 kids now.
Yeah,
They're your fans for at least another 10 years, we'll say.
it's true. Okay, now I have to duck. Oh, I see. I have to go around those things.
Well, you have to redo the start thing every time. It's brutal. Oh man, look at that. First time chat.
Thanks, Nemo.
Offer promotion of channels, viewers, followers, chatbots. Thank you. Let me moderate this.
I don't remember. Is there like you got halfway through this level, you get to keep going?
Yeah, there's a
from here?
checkpoint, I think.
There is? Okay, maybe I'll just have not gotten that far in this level.
That was one of the most painful parts of these old games, though. There's no save states. There's no, like, checkpoints, or very few of them. Oh, man. And how do I moderate this? I just must have to do it through the main.
Oh, I see.
Three dots above the comment. Why am I not seeing that? How do I get rid of this guy?
Can't believe I just did that. Can't believe I liked this game as a kid.
No, it's
So hard.
It's one of the hardest
So
games.
hard.
And you're on like level 2. It is absolutely relentless and unforgiving. God.
I must have had cheat codes. I can't imagine like. I mean,
We
I
played
would.
a lot.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's what we would do is we would go to Blockbuster and rent a game on Super Nintendo
Yep.
and spend the, 3-day weekend was the best. Then I could spend 3 days trying to beat Mega Man 2. Oh, you pinned it. Nice.
Did not mean to pin it.
Or they pinned it. Which, well played, sir.
There we go. All right. I deleted it. It took me a while to figure it out. All right. So one of our classic questions, I asked you this previously when you were on. It was if you had unlimited budget and, no moral qualms, what would you do? And I think your answer last time was blow up the moon just to see what happens. Coincidentally, I listened to an audiobook, sci-fi story called Seven Eves, where the story is based on some spontaneous event blew up the moon.
Oh, I read that too.
So we know the answer, at least according to Seven Eves.
Right.
But so now that you've had a year on Capitol Hill and have an unlimited budget and no moral qualms, what would you do? Either experiment or change the world? Like, what?
I mean,
Infinite lobbying?
redistribution of wealth, kind of like we were talking with capitalism.
Yeah.
It would come straight to mind. One, because we were just talking about it, but two, I think that would be awesome to just say, okay, like, nobody is allowed to have more than. I mean, even if you set it at $100 million, that's like, what do I do there?
People don't understand how much that is.
Right.
Like, it's one of those, like, the Gen Chem where you don't understand moles. Like, the same thing with money after a certain point. The number is
Like,
untangible.
why would
by
you
the
really need
brain.
more than $10 million is the way I think about it. But regardless, like, you could say nobody can have more than $100 million. Oh, So I don't know. I think redistribution of wealth, where like everybody puts money into the pot, and then this is just socialism, right?
Yeah.
Or communism, or however you want to structure it. But like, try that in America and see what happens. But I think there's significant moral qualms with that. But assuming there weren't, I would definitely try that. What else? What else would I try? I see. So you have to jump a little. You have to leave a little space.
Rubik N64. Nintendo forced the devs of this game to make it tough because of Blockbuster back in the day. I mean,
what?
It drives up your rentals, right? You can't beat it. Man.
I mean,
there's a conspiracy. Lion King was made hard. I believe it. Don't get me wrong, but man, what a weird thing. Oh, I got to change her name here.
What else would I do? These rhino tails do not obey gravity.
Yeah.
The momentum.
The hitboxes don't make any sense. Sega too? No, I believe it. How much did they spend on lobbying?
What else would I do with infinite money? I would definitely just try like the socialism capitalism experiment. I think that's fascinating.
An interesting factoid from our previous stream: the first person to propose or try to implement a universal basic income in the United States was actually Richard Nixon. He proposed a 10,000 universal basic income across the U.S. Never went anywhere, obviously, but yeah,
right.
He proposed it.
I also am a fan of like mandatory math proficiency before you get a driver's license. Two unrelated totally things, but like if you really want to drive as a teenager, you better be able to do some like college level algebra. Right? Let's just set that to be the bar, and that'll solve an awful lot of problems.
I'm intrigued by that experiment. I would settle for the death penalty for not using a turn signal. Like, I like it.
Oh my god, we might have to abandon this game soon. This is getting the better of me. Or I might have to let you take a try here.
I still don't know. I still don't get how Netflix is better than Blockbuster, because you could at least browse Blockbuster for free. Yeah, but I should show you the cover art to half the Nintendo games I have on the shelf, because it does not represent what was actually in the game. So I would argue that a lot of Blockbuster cover art was not particularly useful. There's some weird momentum. If you're not walking far enough, it just goes bad.
Yeah, that's why I assumed that like Y or something was run, but there is no run in this game. So you have to be moving forward enough for it to make sense.
Yuri.
You have to time it just right.
And that cool microwave popcorn bucket. You have me there. Blockbuster did have that. Oh, man. Well, following up on the visit to Tallahassee, so you're not going to see the mag lab at all while you're here, but you'll see chemistry department, go out to a restaurant for lunch, and then you're heading back. Yeah.
I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong here.
Give you another 15 minutes. Do you want to try something else?
No.
I'm guessing you have to catch it on the backswing, like when it's up.
So it can't jump anytime, clearly, but it has to be coming towards me?
That would be my guess.
But I also have to release it. Okay.
Yeah.
I should really approach this scientifically and try to learn here. I see. Yeah. And I think that's probably what I did as a kid, was actually like pay attention and try.
Yeah. That's what the speedrunning community calls visual cues.
Uh-huh. Oh!
What?
Forgot about that.
I'm invested now. Science be damned. Fullerene 60C requested a factoid, in particular a factoid about mass spec.
God, all that again.
Rage.
Up, then down. A fact about mass spec. My experiments take 100 microseconds, and I know if they work or not.
That's a fun factoid. So you can run how many of those in a day?
Yeah. Like billions, and like maybe one of them works.
It's fun when you break it down that way.
Yeah. Ugh.
Microseconds. I guess everything's done. So you release a gas into a chamber, ionize it.
Yeah. And then it goes through like it's called an ion bender. So it like turns a corner. Oh, that's fun. And then it goes through a quadrupole filter where you select the one you want, and then nice. And then you can inject it into an ion trap where it can circulate for a while. And so depending on the experiment, you might want it to live there for milliseconds, in which case it takes milliseconds. But most of them will only take microseconds. And then you can let more gases in to see how they react.
Oh man, Data Basics has a very specific redeem a factoid. This is the first time people have requested a flavor of factoid, so I appreciate this. Can mine be in the form of a dad joke? You're gonna play Lion King while delivering a factoid in the form of a dad joke. Oh wow.
I mean, it's Lion King, so maybe I should pause.
That is almost cruel.
That's a lion pause joke? No? Okay. Dad joke. Just before I left the house tonight, my wife asked me, how do I look? I said, with your eyes.
That's not a fact, I guess. If it's a true story,
just
it counts.
A dad joke. What else?
You don't have to deliver on this. That is way too much to ask at 10:30 at night, which no doubt you are not used to getting sleep or a consistent sleep schedule.
See, I tried to back up there to get a running start, and then that just didn't work.
Yeah, that's the worst part about this game is it's hard to tell where the platforms end.
Ugh! So I can't just get up there. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Hit the paw use button? Rubik N64 knows this game. What is the paw use button?
Pause.
Oh, the pause button. God damn it. I apologize for that. Also, you're a terrible person, Rubik N64. Oh, this one doesn't have the indicators.
Oh! So close!
You made it too farther than that one.
So I jumped too soon?
I don't know.
What was it? Nailed it.
There's some kind of internet rule. I don't remember what it was, but if a chat room goes long enough, Hitler will be invoked. But also, if Twitch streams long enough, puns will be invoked. There's somebody named that. We'll call it the Melko effect.
I love it.
It was when they requested the dad joke, which were the puns really came to light. All right, if anyone has any science questions, science policy questions for Dr. Josh Melko, throw them in chat right now. We're happy to answer them while playing Lion King, struggling with Lion King.
I hate this game.
Why'd you choose?
I had vivid and very good memories of it, but I mean, I'm getting better at that part, but
there are aspects about this game that are amazing.
I don't know what to do on this one that I messed up. I have to jump twice, clearly, but I jumped no, that one I ducked.
That was duck, yeah.
Yeah, duck, jump, jump, duck, and then it's double jump, but you have to time the double jump just right. All right, that's okay, we got this.
Now you have a vendetta. Give you another, I don't know, 8 minutes is what we said, right?
That's not going to be long enough, Cotton.
Huggy Beer, are there any atmospheric chemistry factoids left?
Atmospheric chemistry factoids. Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't prepare or think about any of those.
No worries. I did frame this as a science policy stream, but
let me see.
It's free for all. This is the internet. That was good, though. You had...
Okay.
It is that momentum. That's it.
I have to concentrate here. Up, down, down, up, right? No, up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down. Up, down. Okay, now there's the double jump, but I don't know.
Up, up. Yeah. Down. Well, nice.
Oh, God. Yes.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
What?
Just more shit.
No!
Now it's the infinite monkey pattern.
Oh.
It's all fun and games till they throw you back across the drink. Yeah, if you don't have this memorized, you're kind of shit out of luck, aren't you?
At least I can hit that. Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just like everyone you can turn to turn them, but we'll see.
Now the tough part, Rubik N64. If you have any insights, tell us which ones to switch. I mean, what's the one after this? Is it the Stampede?
I hope so. Otherwise, we're not going to see the Stampede.
Yeah, but that was like groundbreaking.
There we go.
16-bit.
Probably turn him. What am I supposed to do here?
Don't know. Rubik, we're relying on you. I don't remember the pattern. My wife would actually know it, but I do not.
Oh, I see. Maybe... where else can I go? I can't go anywhere else, right? What am I supposed to do? Just die? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
And you didn't flip any of these, did you?
I think I flipped that guy, but that still doesn't do anything.
It's been ages since I played this last. Me too. Is that snake in the water? Can you... Guess you probably die. No? I don't know. I was hoping it was a springboard. Sorry. Let the team down. I could look up the speed run. It's probably like 6 minutes to beat this game or something. All right, the other question we typically ask, one of my favorites, and I asked this previously on science-related things, you know, what movie or TV show gets your discipline right and what gets it wrong? In retrospect, having experienced Washington, D.C. firsthand in terms of the political spectrum, is there anything stands out to you? Like,
that gets it right?
Gets it right or gets it wrong?
Veep gets it totally right. If you've ever seen Veep, Veep
Yes,
gets it totally Veep. Yeah, Veep gets it. Yeah, for sure.
The balance of raging competence and incompetence.
Yes,
and
that is spot on. And like West Wing is cool, and I think gets some stuff right. So that's a good one.
Sexy version, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So those two are really, really good. I think probably most everything else gets it wrong, but yeah, Veep definitely gets it right. So that guy throws me all the way over.
And these are just how they are.
And those are how they are, except for this guy. So I'm here.
Did you? I think you flipped that one last
him,
time.
but he didn't do anything. He doesn't come into play here. See?
Our roar's directional.
No, they just flip the guy and then flip him back.
Oh, do you have to? Oh, now it has to send you. That's probably it. So bounce off him, and then I think it'll cascade you further. Huggy Beer on season 3 of my first viewing of Veep, and I'm disappointed that it's accurate. Oh man, you popped a major bubble for me, Huggy Beer. I apologize on behalf of our stream.
I see, so now I actually have to go back and do this. Oh, gosh. Now I understand.
It's pretty insufferable.
Luckily, I mean, that part's not super hard.
I mean, if we wanted to invest, we could look up the YouTube video, but back in the day, you're just like, I rented this game.
This is it. We got it.
I leave the game on overnight to save my state.
That's right. There we go.
And you had that one.
What?
Oh my!
What happened there? I was so sure about that.
Florian 60C.
What happened there?
Oh man. Just insulted. All right, it might be time for NARC.
Yeah,
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Very confused, but so ready.
I mean, but you have a Super Nintendo controller at home, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna haunt you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ask a Scientist Gaming, we close every stream, or at least recently we close every stream with a game called NARC. So, Josh, if you are ready,
Is this regular Nintendo?
Original Nintendo Entertainment System. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to win the war on drugs. This is a game written and designed by Nancy Reagan. Yeah, you're going to combat drug dealers. You're going to save the world. You're going to win the war on drugs.
Dang right.
We'll have at least a solid victory tonight. You won one of the football games, though, right?
I did.
Yeah.
A football game.
With Green Bay, yeah. Now you get to blow up some drug dealers. All right. If anyone has any questions, throw them in the chat for Josh Melko. He's happy to talk about atmospheric chemistry or science policy. Particularly, spent a year in Washington D.C. learning a lot about a very different domain of work. I mean, you had such a unique experience because most of us just live in the ivory tower of academia.
Right.
You had like boots on the ground experience with the political process, which is, I don't know if I'm jealous of the experience. I'm jealous of the knowledge that you gained.
It was very, very fun.
Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, I've learned a lot, and I think I have like a skill set to come back and hopefully influence the next generation to vote and become more engaged and that sort of thing. But also, what? I need a card?
No, I think you have it. Yeah.
There we go. Did you start the timer?
I did not. Shit.
That's okay. We can start it over.
All right. Mild cheating.
Amateur.
I'll save you 15 seconds.
When do you start it? When I start the first level?
When you gain control, as soon as you touch the ground. All right. Thank you for catching that, by the way. I'd have to do it manually. It's nice to see the clock in person, though. Would you recommend it to an end of career chemist or an early career more?
Oh, I would say early or mid for sure. End if you want, but like at that stage, one, I don't know how competitive you'll be unless you're considering it as like a total career change where you're gonna like try to do something totally different with the last, I don't know, 15 years of your career or something. But I think mid-career makes the most sense, or early career. So like you just got your PhD or you are just getting tenure like I was. I think that makes sense.
I mean, it's awesome that UNF was like supportive of it.
Yeah.
I mean, not all institutions would do that.
No, absolutely. Super, super lucky. NARC.
Yes. I'm sorry. Worst part is we're just both exhausted at this point.
I know.
We're several beers in, we're playing this shitty Nintendo game. But it does like exemplify the war on drugs. Right? It's the like utility
this
of it.
This is what, like, you know, Tom Cotton wants you to think like LA and New York City are actually like constantly.
NARC is the best descriptor of their lens of big
Yes.
cities.
That's right.
Because like I regularly on my phone I have several news sources up, so I'll have like, you know, AP, I'll have NPR or CNN, but I'll also have Fox News tabs just to see it.
Yeah.
And it's like every other Fox News not every other article title, but it's like in liberal city, blah blah blah. Like it defines every city, and everything bad that happens in the city is due to the liberal nature of it. And it's not just populous areas are more liberal, and it's just. I mean, you've seen behind the curtain, right? In terms of the open secrets and other things you've looked at, is there any insights you could give people in terms of how they could reshape their lens to view popular news stories in a more realistic way?
What do you mean by that?
Like in terms of like, I know a lot of these stories are bullshit, but is there something you key up on now that you didn't before? Like ways that things are sold or where how they're shaped?
I would say it's more like what sources I'm using. So like, I think you have to figure out if you have local media that's actually really good or really bad, and sometimes that's hard to tell. But I do also really quite like this chart that shows like political bias for various news organizations, and just make sure you're using like the couple that are in the center and up high for being unbiased and also very reputable, like AP or Reuters or something. So I try to tell people to use that and get their news from those sorts of places, but it doesn't always work. And I mean, it's like, you know, somebody that's not a scientist reading a journal article that's in JAX or something, like, they're gonna be like, oh, that's impressive. And it could, I mean, because it's in JAX, it probably actually is impressive, but like, it might be total BS, theoretically, if the editorial process isn't working. But it's hard. It's very difficult. And I think a better strategy is to like try to reform the institutions that are in charge of disseminating information and putting better guardrails around what media can get away with. Like, why can Fox News say some of the things they can say without repercussions? Okay, why can Kanye West go on certain podcasts and say things he can say without repercussions? And I mean, I think, you know, it's legal. Capitalism, and you know, maybe like his brand will suffer for it, and okay, that's the penalty, but yeah, freedom of speech, I guess.
But Fox News, there was a legal, at least with a few of the talking heads, it was that it's entertainment and not news. Right. Like, it's obvious it's entertainment and not news.
Right. Oh, he was just joking. I mean, that was basically Trump's classic defense, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you could sell it that way.
It's depressing. Yeah. Man, I just reviewed an article for JAX that was a bunch of emission spectroscopy, and it's brutal, but I don't think one of their peaks was real.
Oh.
And it was like, I was the adjudicating reviewer, and two reviewers like accept with minor revisions. One was like major revisions, and then they brought it to me, and I'm like, this is not real. The other reviewers don't know it's not real. Like, yeah. But had they not sent it to me, yeah, I don't know. And it's not even their fault. It's just like, if you've seen 10,000 spectra like I have, you know what the shapes should be. You know what's real and what's not.
Right.
So, yeah. There's a series called Toxic that calls out fake organic papers.
I'd love to see it.
Brutal. Toxic.
This is not like the most exciting level.
No, this is the longest level by far. You have to memorize the pattern with the car.
Mm.
Sick.
Oh, man, these guys are really coming after me.
I'm getting forever chemicals. Determination of toxicity.
I always thought that Congress agrees on more than they report on, since it's not an attention getter. Do you feel that's true? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think sometimes that's like meant to convey that Congress is like good and super productive, but like, yes, it's true that they'll pass resolutions like agreeing to honor some new holiday or something, you know, or like pass a bill that has pretty bipartisan support, and like those things don't make headlines. That's true, I guess, but those usually aren't the most consequential things anyways. So I think that's usually oversold, that they're much more productive than we give them credit for. I mean, in some respects, yes, they're just doing their jobs. That's what they were elected to do, is represent and like get stuff done and make policy changes that are sound and improve people's lives. Whoa, was that a Molotov cocktail?
I think it's
what? Is that a clown?
It's a clown with a knife and someone throwing sticks of dynamite. You know, LA.
Typical Thursday night. Wait, what was happening here?
You're going to the right, and you're going to find a key on the ground and pick it up. And you're going to press up and go through the door, but don't press it too long. Go through the door twice. Nice. All right. Key card is right there. You're on a good pace.
Nice. Max Force NARC.
Max Force. All right, now you're onto the weed level. All right, we should speed run some of these predictions, because we have a bunch of them that we haven't done.
All these hippie peace signs and pot flags. Oh my god.
You know. This is kind of a fun one. This is...
Oh, wait, I have to go the other way on this one.
Google all you want. You guys are not getting the answer to this. But yeah, if you're not following, click the follow button, use your internet units. We're going to bet on a prediction right now, particularly related to Josh's time in Washington, D.C. He spent a year there. The question is, how many bills did Josh write while in Washington, D.C.? Greater than 2 or less than 2? So this is cradle to grave, full bill, writing an actual
Doesn't mean it was passed and became law or anything, but
Something was
so I
written.
have to
So you have to
find it.
You have to hit the Rambo guys. One of them will drop a green card. So go back to the left, and you have to shoot them within a certain proximity. If they're too far away, they won't drop a card. For some reason, NES rules. All right, how many bills did Josh write while he was in Washington, D.C.? Less than 2 or greater than 2? Again, I don't think there's any possible way you guys could know this answer, but he spent a year there. How much work did Josh get done? And if your metric is how many bills he wrote. I mean, so the typical staffer, I mean, they're probably not spending just 1 year. Like what's the turnover?
Turnover's pretty high. I mean, Congress is run by 20-somethings, and they're there for a few years out of law school, and then they're there for a few years, and then they move on to somewhere else. But that said, 3 to 5, I think is probably average.
Huh. I mean, you gotta imagine people get pretty good at what they're doing after a couple years of that experience. All right, less than 2 or greater than 2. We only have one prediction right now. It is late at night. I feel you guys. Makes you feel any better? I have to wake up at 8 a.m. and teach a class. Well, I have to wake up at 7 a.m.
wake up earlier
to get to 8 a.m. class, yeah. All right. We have tied. Some say less than, some say greater than. 1000K bet on greater than 2. Data basics going all in on this one. I appreciate that. Standard. It's more than just standard internet units. Your pride is on the line. You have these key cards, so you can go right through.
Debatable. Mr. Big's office is impenetrable.
All right, Josh, what is the answer? How many bills did you write?
3.
3 bills.
I worked on an awful lot more, but 3 officially is sort of what I could proudly say were my own.
I mean, so how does that work? You have like a template, a format you use? How it's just write stuff until...
Yeah, I mean, there's, as you'll see tomorrow, a very boring slide that has 13 steps to writing a bill. And this is not something you can find or anybody will ever tell you. This is just like how I wrote bills. I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but this is like what I did. And it's actually not like so different than writing academic papers. Like the first, especially when you're like a young graduate student, you have no idea really what you're doing. So what do? You read some papers that exist. So you read some bills in the subject area that exist, and you meet with people like maybe other grad students, or postdocs or something in the group, or maybe even the PI, depending, who will tell you about like, this is what a paper should look like, and this is like the amount of data that constitutes a paper. Like, you don't really know when you're starting out what any of that looks like. So you meet with a bunch of groups to figure out like what policy you might want to be interested that aligns with the senator's interest and his constituents. In Massachusetts, in my case, that's guys in a wheelchair, and he is going very fast.
So you have to shoot him with a rocket.
Wow. How do I shoot a rocket again?
Yep. So tapping A. If you hold both buttons, yeah, you can get the dogs pretty easily. All right, then when he comes back on, yeah, go to the right.
Dang. It's tap A?
Yep. So it's less than 7 frames. So maybe don't press it as hard.
It's kind of dang tough. I don't need ammo or something?
No, go to the right.
I'm just trying to shoot a thing in
Oh,
general.
yeah. So just tap it faster than the... Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I would do like a really quick flick of the button. So 3 bills, these were assigned to you, or these were things you were like genuinely passionate about? Anyone?
Both.
Okay.
Where'd he go?
He'll come back. You have to do that 2 more times.
Oh, no.
He's not even the final form of this boss.
Oh, my God. That's super.
But it's okay. You're only at 12 minutes. So go to the right. He'll spawn again at some point. All right. Second one down.
One was like something I became very interested in and aligned for the senator's like interest. One was early on, people were like, we should do something in this area, and I was interested in it and read about it. And then the third one was something that a group we trusted brought to me, and I thought, yeah, we should probably get involved and do something here. And also it was on like something where chemistry was like super applicable, and I was clearly going to be the only person that ever saw it across the finish line, so was happy to do that one. So one on cryptocurrency, one on toxic chemicals in our food supply, and one on what the hell?
All right, this is the final form of Mr. Big. I'll give you some advice. If you go to the top of the screen, his projectiles, which are actually his tongue, can't hit you. And what you're going to have to do is do a jump rocket. So walk away from him. Yeah, on your way down, you'll shoot a rocket. And you got to hit him in the hat with a rocket for the first one.
Let's see.
So yeah, I'd recommend just walking away, get some distance, go to the top of the screen. Yep, right there. Yep. That was very close, a little bit earlier.
Like higher or lower?
Yeah, release the rocket higher.
Let's see. Oh my gosh, this dude is powerful.
You know, this is what a drug lord looks like. It's based on a true story. All right, we're going to throw up another prediction while Josh has this battle against Mr. Big.
This is difficult.
All right, so this prediction is related to Josh's work hours while he was a science policy advisor in the Senate. The question is, what were his work hours? 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.? Did he work a standard 9 to 5, or was it 12 hours a day, every day, putting in the grind?
How are you supposed to hit this guy? I've done it like every... Well, maybe not.
Yep, so a little bit lower with the rocket is if it hits him in the hat. But this is the hardest part, believe it or not. That was very close.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that was very close. So I'd get some distance. You don't have to be moving while you do it. You could just stand still, turn back, tap B, and then tap A on the way down. What? That should have been it. 8 to 8. Ain't nobody got time for that.
I don't know why.
Put your predictions in there now. How confident are you in ain't nobody got time for that? Man. Oh, there it is. Okay, now you just shoot him in the face. You don't have to jump anymore. Just rockets directly in the face. All right, now it's bullets. So just hold A. But you can't hit him at the top of the screen. You have to go down a little bit. So I just like walk away from him, get somewhere in the middle, turn around, shoot bullets. All right, 2 vertebrae down, 4 to go. 8 to 8. All right, Josh, we have 15 seconds left. Guess I'll ask for the answer in a little bit. 10 seconds. How many work hours did he work as a science policy advisor? This wasn't just you. This was pretty much standard across the board.
Yeah.
All right. So, Josh, what is the answer?
Pretty much 9 to 5 every day. If the senator is there, then yeah, sure, you might be 9 to 6 or something, but it's pretty much 9 to 5 every single day.
So if you move around on the y-axis, yes, the hitboxes are very weird. It actually depends on your Y position and when you pull the trigger and when its head is going down. So just kind of try a bunch of stuff.
Not really making good.
So 9 to 5. So this wasn't like grad school where everyone's just a workhorse. Like it's an actual professional.
I mean, there are certainly.
Oh, there you go. All right, go right. Find the door.
There are certainly some people that were there before me and left after me, and those are like the very senior people.
Okay.
But most people are out the door right at 5, or like I said, if the senator is in and things are moving, like, then yeah, you're probably there 9 to 6.
So this is civil forfeiture, the level.
Huh?
You're stealing all the gold without due process.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
I know, it's very realistic. They definitely captured something. 17 minutes and 40 seconds.
That's it?
Holy shit, yes, that's the game.
Oh, all right.
22 minutes. Let me see where you are on the scoreboard. That's going to be really close. Stream files.
I know, right? Full rain.
Oh, that's going to be close to the top. I think 17 minutes something was one of the top times.
All right, so I want to be top 5. That's all.
Alex Robb did it in 17 minutes and 35 seconds.
Oh my God.
So close.
Run it back.
So close. You want to spend another?
No.
It's getting late.
Not.
17 minutes and 40 seconds. That is a respectable time, though. The thing is, Alex Robb was one of my grad students and moderated the stream, so he actually had more insights than you
Right,
did.
sure.
So,
Okay.
So your time was very respectable. You are number 2 on this. Well, number 3 if you count my time. So congratulations on your
NARC. I believe you were the speed running champion of NARC.
Was it everything you hoped it would be?
It really was.
I mean, the Game
It was
Genie
easier
code-
than Lion King, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no. Even with Game Genie, Lion King is hard as hell.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that puts us at almost exactly 11 o'clock. If anyone has suggestions on who we should raid, or Josh, if you have insights, we'll take a look and try to raid somebody. But in the meantime, thank you all for swinging by. It's been a pleasure. It's always great to have you guys join us. It takes conversations in really fun places, and we really appreciate the comments. Josh, thank you for joining me, and particularly driving from UNF to come join us on live stream and visit us here at FSU. Any parting words for the audience?
Keep supporting science streaming on Twitch and voting, and your best sort of power if you want to change policy, at least in the United States, is joining some sort of local group that already has some relationships and just getting involved there. I think that's the best use of your time to make the biggest change you can.
Good to know. All right, everyone, again, thank you for joining us in 2 weeks. Well, a little under 2 weeks, because it'll be Wednesday. I think that's December 14th. We'll have on Mike Roper, who's also a chemist. He's an analytical chemist. He does lab in a chip technology. Particularly, he wants it related to diabetes treatment and diagnosis and things like that, trying to do that in really quantitative ways. Join us in 2 weeks it'll be our last stream of the year, actually. So Mike Roper will be on in 2 weeks. But until then, it has been a pleasure. We'll see you guys later.